We have a long tradition here at Pensacola City Council making our forum here where we conduct business also open to the public, and beginning this past January we opened up 2 public forums, one at each end of the meeting. And I just want to go over a few of the rules. You got 4 minutes, but you must be civil. I'm not going to stand for a repeat of our Monday committee meeting and have people referred to as Hitler and Himmler. And if you do, you're out of order. And so it's, this is everybody's meeting, not just any 1 or 2 or 3 people's meeting. So with that said, the first open forum will go until 6 p.m. And at that time, we will start conducting the business of the city. If I've not called on you and you have a card to speak to open forum, there'll be another opportunity at the close of business. So thank you. First speaker is Miss Barbara Mayo. Miss Mayo is going to be speaking to the letter that I was asking permission to send to the Florida Department of Transportation. And I hope a draft of that has been sent to you. And if not, I could read it to you later as we open it up during new business. Ms. Mayo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, council members. I just wanted to come down here and really show my appreciation for all of you, and especially to the council president for moving forward so fast and getting in touch with the Florida Department of Transportation on this very crucial issue of people being able to see the blindspot.com. And that's why I'm here, was to thank you, and I really appreciate you backing me on this, and hopefully, you know, they will make some better decisions in the future to get people aware of the pedestrians and the bicycle safety. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mayo. Ms. Hazel Johnson.
Good afternoon, council, and to the people. About a week ago, I was doing my walk for my exercise, and when I finished my walk, I came back to my house and I saw pink strips all around the block, and one pink strip was tied on my fence. And it said Northwest Florida Surveying Incorporated. And I would like to know what was the purpose of them putting that strip on my fence. And as I walked through the block, I saw pink strips tied to another fence, at least. And then I saw the little pink strips all on the ground. And I was driving down Bayfront driveway Wednesday last week, and I saw them same little kind of pink strips on the median on Bayfront, and there were so many of them it looked like a flower garden. I would like to know what was the purpose of them surveying the block that I live in, and why they tied a pink ribbon on my fence.
Well, I certainly don't have that answer for you tonight, Ms. Johnson, but somebody from staff will. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mrs. Johnson spoke to me about this situation, and I passed it on to the city administrator, and initially we were not able to find out any information, but I've been assured by the city administrator that he was going to check that company that you referenced a minute ago, and see if we could find out what they were doing in the neighborhood, because I saw the strips after you called me, and I don't know whether Mr. Reynolds have found anything out as yet or not.
Well, when I called the number, they had a telephone number on that. They said they was hired by the city to survey it.
Okay.
I think
And if I may, Council
Yes, sir.
President, at this point, we don't have the information as of yet, but I can certainly pass that on if I could get your name and number, and I'll make sure that we do that.
All right, thank you.
I have her information here, Mr. Reynolds. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. You can clear Mr. Townsend's light. Mr. John Johnson.
Good evening. I, too, am heir to said property. And to be honest with you, I've always had a cynical view of the Pensacola City Council. And there's good reason for it. Back in 1975, when a man named Barney Burke, some of you may not even know who I'm talking about, he had a company called Big Ten Tire Company. He was the mayor of Pensacola. They got together and decided that they wanted to rezone the property where I grew up at, my father's house and my mother's house, who spoke before me. And they wanted to restrict us to being a residential community when there was no real hope of increasing the investment having been made in the property as strictly residential. We saw that there was possibly a chance that it could be developed commercially in a lighter commercial sense and been more equitable for the fiduciary use of the holder of said property. And they didn't get to zone it because myself, Mr. Clifford right there, Mr. Man named Frank Pensacola, organized the community and prevented that rezoning. The people who would have been the primary benefactors of said zoning was the people who had businesses located on the east side of town. And they told us at the time that we would never have any hope of anything other than residential. Well, we seen Ivan changed a lot of folks' mind, and when Ivan came and wrecked the sewer plant, that now we got the Maritime Park going, we got the sewer plant's going to be redeveloped. Probably about 40 acres of land is up for grabs right now. And I ain't going to say I told you so because you wasn't there, but we were right, and we smell something. And we're going to find out. And if there's any sunshine violation, I might go to law school, but I guarantee I'm going to hold some people's feet to the fire. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Reverend Nathan Monk.
Members of the council, I too do not want to see a repeat of what happened at the Monday meeting. I thought it was embarrassing what happened at the Monday meeting in a lot of ways. I have been coming and speaking at City Council for 5 years. And in those 5 years, I have never seen someone removed from a City Council meeting. And at least 3 people were removed at that meeting. And what was offensive about their speech was that they weren't connecting the dots that you wanted them to. Well, you don't have the right to determine what type of speech people are going to have when they are addressing their government for a redress of grievances. If someone wants to connect the dots between the poverty that we have and the amount that a loan is being taken out for, they have the right to connect those dots and question their government about that. As Americans, we have the right to redress our government without fear of being arrested. Oftentimes, when people come to address their government, they're passionate about the things that they have to say. It embarrassed me on Monday. I have had the opportunity to stand before many administrations of this council, and I have always enjoyed it. I've even enjoyed the banter and the times that we've gotten into arguments, and I've had the opportunity to come forward to someone and say, sorry that I said that thing, that probably wasn't the smartest thing that I said, or I could have said that a little bit differently, and foot and mouth and all that kind of stuff. But to throw someone out, that's a shame. That's embarrassing. This council does not have the right to limit people's speech, to determine what type of speech is appropriate, or to determine what types of dots should and should not be connected. This council should be more embarrassed by the fact that people were able to connect dots to Hitler than that someone pointed it out. Whether or not they're connecting dots from Hitler to George Wallace to Barney, if they're connecting those dots, you should be asking, well, what are we doing that's allowing people to connect those dots? It was a sick and gross abuse of power. And what is he?
Your time is up. Sit down. Thank you.
No, I have a minute and 12 seconds left.
I'm ruling you out of order.
Well, I am absolutely within order. I am with order. You are out of order. You made an oath to protect the Constitution. I'm not leaving the podium. I have 56 seconds left. I'm not leaving this podium. I have a constitutional right to be here. I have 49 seconds left. I'm sorry, I'm not the one that's doing this. I'm not doing it. I am an American citizen. I am an American citizen.
I'm leaving.
I'm sorry, Chip. I'm sorry.
I am leaving this chamber as you are in violation of the people's First Amendment right. I will be outside if you want to address your grievances to your government.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Townsend. Okay. Rebecca Meyer. Welcome, Ms. Meyer.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. My name's Rebecca Heyer. Although I do not come here today as a representative of the Occupy movement, I am motivated by some of their concerns, specifically those related to the role of corporations in our society and the power of money in the political process. On January 21st, 2010, the Supreme Court of the United States, in the case of Citizens United versus the Federal Elections Commission, made a ruling that has been widely criticized by many, including President Barack Obama. It affirmed the status of corporations as legal persons and took the position that money equals speech, opening the floodgates of essentially unlimited corporate money into the political arena. This is a matter that affects every citizen of this country, and communities and municipalities from coast to coast are speaking out on this issue. The Movement to Amend, a coalition of organizations and individuals, is organizing an effort to amend the United States Constitution and remove the threat to democracy presented by this ruling. Recently, on December 6th, the City Council of Los Angeles, California, passed a resolution supporting the activities of the Movement to Amend. I would like to ask the council here to adopt a similar resolution. I have printed a document describing a form this resolution could take. With your permission, I would like to read it.
You, up until the length of your time, ma'am, and we do all have copies of your resolution here before us.
Okay. Whereas government of, by, and for the people has long been a cherished American value, and we the people's fundamental and inalienable right to self-govern and thereby secure the rights to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness is guaranteed in the United States Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And whereas free and fair elections are essential to democracy and effective self-governance, And whereas persons are rightfully recognized as human beings whose essential needs include clean air, clean water, safe and secure food, and whereas corporations are entirely human-made legal fictions created by the express permission of we the people and our governments, I'm going to abridge this. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Pensacola hereby calls on our mayor to join tens of thousands of citizens, grassroots organizations, and local governments across the country in the Move to Amend campaign to call for an amendment to the Constitution to abolish corporate personhood and return our democracy, our elections, our communities back to America's human persons, and to thus reclaim our sovereign right to self-governance. Be it further resolved that the City of Pensacola calls on other communities and jurisdictions to join with us in this action by passing similar resolutions. Be it further resolved that the City of Pensacola supports education to increase public awareness of the threats to our democracy posed by corporate personhood and encourages lively discussion to build understanding and consensus to take appropriate community and municipal actions to democratically respond to those threats. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Charles Cobb.
Councilman Hall,
Yes.
Mr. President, could she clarify really quickly before she goes back to her seat
Yes.
the other cities that have been involved in this or that
Ms.
might
Heyer.
have passed this? I didn't get that clearly.
I referred specifically to the City of Los Angeles.
Okay.
There are an additional 20 municipalities and government bodies at various levels that have supported. I did not bring that list, but I can provide it.
Is there a website possibly?
There is. It's movetoamend.org.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heyer. Mr. Cobb.
Share. Okay, you can.
Thank you, Mr. President. I come down here and I said, we got a little fight going on. Well, I'm going to add a little bit more to the fire. Miss Myers walking out of here was a extravagance. Chief of police should be made to arrest her and bring her back, put her in the spot. They did it in Jacksonville. You have got the authority to have her arrested and be brought back in. I've seen this done before in Jacksonville. And it can be done. Another thing, Miss Myers the other day was at the county commission meeting, saying that the city needs to put money into the mass transit. The city does pay. The city, we people of the city pay county and city taxes. We pay in county taxes. Why do we have to take part of the city money and add to the transportation? Biggest part of the route is outside. They bring them downtown. That's not our fault. That's all I got to say about that. Now, Mr. Gerald, we got a little problem. Oh, back in August or September, I talked to you about setting a time limit for people to be in what the heck am I trying to say? Curfew, thank you very much. And you said we'd get ready to work on it. Well, so we're going to have a meeting. You had a meeting about 60 days ago and haven't heard a thing about it. The county don't want to do it. Grab it and let's run with the thing. We need it. You know it, we know it. You notice the number of people being shot, the break-ins around the city, the county. Let's go ahead and do it. The county the county did a thing for getting rid of the bums off the street. The city followed with. And it's very, very nice to drive around the city of Pensacola and don't see these people out there wanting money, wanting money, wanting money. Of course, you got one or two city councilmen here. I won't mention her name. It's for it. But the thing in the morning paper, there's 16 jobs in Mississippi they wanting people for. But these people don't want to work. Get back to Mr. Gerald. When are you going to do something on this curfew? Me and you talked, I said, well, it should be a good idea to have it in by January 1st. He said, I agree with you. Well, you ain't even passed anything. What's the holdup? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Gerald?
May I respond?
Yes.
Don't move, Mr. Cobb. I am absolutely with you. But before I make comments about the curfew, on yesterday I watched on Good Morning America a horrific accident involving a young person who allegedly was texting or distracted by something. And I watched the result, the crash, the flatbed of the 18-wheeler, the truck in the middle, excuse me, underneath the truck, under the bus, the school bus. 2 individuals lost their lives, unfortunately. And it wasn't 5 minutes after the broadcast, someone called me to say that City Council looking at trying to stop people from texting and using their electronic devices while driving. And I said, not to my knowledge. My point is that no matter what it is, there is someone out there ready to argue that point. And I explained to her as delicately as I could that it's not just a matter and a danger for the people who are actually texting and driving, but it's a heck of a danger to the rest of us. And that's the position I take. You can text, drive, or do whatever you want to do, but if you run into me and cause me to be injured or killed, it's a problem. It's a problem for the person doing it. It is a problem. Now, the curfew, idea of a curfew is not dead. There are people who want to talk. I am aware of those. I've said this many times. I've heard as many of the excuses and the reasons as to why not do anything when we have a duty and a responsibility to look after our children in some way, to reconnect them with the parents. There are other things in the idea of a curfew that can help the productivity and the success of our children. And she's continued to say to me last evening about 9:50, well, what's the problem? And I wanted to say, lady, if you don't know what the problem is, then you're not going to get it. If you don't have it now, you won't get it. So the point is, we are continuing to do research, pulling the information together, and of course, we will have to move forward, making sure that if we use the Jacksonville model, that we are within the guidelines of the courts and stand less of a chance of having the idea challenged. One thing that I thought of, and at some point we may consider bringing it before the county commission, since I've talked with the supervisor of election, and the way to get it on the November ballot for 2012 will require a vote by the county commission. So convincing those folks, I think that school board and some of the others are convinced, but if people out there are still saying, why do we need it, then there is a mental disconnect in the air. But I can assure you that I have not abandoned the idea. I am still in favor of it. It won't impact me. I'm over 17, and I don't have any children of that age. So it's certainly not going to impact me. But I do believe that it's our responsibility as adults to intervene in the behavior of some of our children, and I know I've heard the arguments to the point that people are beginning to regurgitate those same excuses. I do know and understand that, yes, there are a lot of good children out there, but there are some bad ones out there too.
More bad than good.
And the parents who may think that their children are protected from the bad ones, they're not. Once they come to school, they all get together. So we have to get the data, connect the dots, if you will, and look forward to immediately after the holiday season, we're going to go right back to it. And of course, I'll need your support and your comments. And I thank you for your interest.
So, excuse me, but I got one other thing, since Mr. Gerald brought it up.
I just can't allow it.
I still got 2 minutes, dear.
I'm sorry, sir. I've got one more person I need
Okay.
to get up here before 6, but thank you, Mr. Cobb. Mr. Mike Lowry.
Good evening, Mike Lowry, 364 Maribel, Pensacola. First of all, happy holidays. First and foremost, I want to encourage you, and I think you will, ratify the agreement for the collective bargaining agreement, the first one ever that I know of, for the ASME Local 3253 and their great president, Kim. That's just congratulations. It's fantastic to see that come about. You know, representing transit workers, we don't have a contract, and but we're pleased to see that the city workers and the International Association of the Professional Firefighters, Local 707, Phillips Local there, is that there's going to be hopefully some ratification today and some success there between labor and management. We're happy to see that. And we have a unique perspective from the transit workers. We see city workers out on the street daily. We see firefighters, professional firefighters out on the street daily. We know how good they are. They are the best. I just want to mention one other thing, and actually two other things, but the one thing I want to mention to you is mentioned about the transit workers. We're moving forward, and we're hoping that the City Council will start to spend some time with the County Commission and start to really look at the transit issue, because we think it's a very important issue. A comment was just made a minute ago that I think this person doesn't have all the details, and if they got the details, they would understand a little bit more about that, because it's important to know how important the transit system can help the economic growth in this community. And the service is in the city and the county. And the transit union is working forward to, in 2012, to try to find funding in different ways. And so we would like the city to be involved with that. So starting out with that, to say, oh, you should contribute, well, you know, let's first start dialogue. And I think we can start there. And then we'll see where we go from there. But we are 100% behind Commissioner Valentino's idea of a gas tax, and then it coming off the backs of the homeowners in this community for them having to pay. We're behind that. And we're behind a regional transit system. But we think it's important that this council's involved with that.
Mr. Lowry, I know
Yes.
you've got a little time left, but we're at 6 o'clock.
Okay, can I say one last thing and I'm
just-
done? Because actually I have to leave. The last thing I'll say is this. Councilwoman Sherry Myers is one of the biggest transit advocates. I've known her for years. She's huge for the ADA. In the opinion of these transit workers, some comments were made. I'm going to tell you something. She's a legislator of the year in this community in the perspective of workers. We think she is the best.
Okay. Thank you. And I don't think you would find many on the city council that would disagree with you, sir. Ends open forum, brings us to open forum, and I have several cards. Open forum?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I apologize. I was reading something real quick when I did hear those comments about the camping issue, and I would like to hear a short history. I believe it was misrepresented Monday that this issue has come up recently because of the Occupy movement here. And from what I understand, doing a little research, that I had heard that this issue had actually been looked at for many months ago. And actually, Mr. Wells, I believe, had started looking at this issue maybe as long as a year ago. And if I could get an explanation if that is accurate or not from Mr. Reynolds and Mr. Messer, Mr. President, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, and well, start with City Administrator, and then I expect to hear from the City Attorney after that.
Thank you very much, Council President. This actually had been in effect for at least over a year. The former city attorney, Rusty Wells, was actually the individual that had started drafting the ordinance originally. And for whatever reason, it had never been implemented. I found the ordinance as I was doing research on the camping issue myself. During that point, both I and code enforcement worked on it. We also did some legal research in my office in regards to the statute that it was based upon in Orlando, recognized that there were some concerns of the court that were articulated, but you know, the statute was fine, but they did have some concerns at the court level, and so we had made the determination to go ahead and tweak that original statute to take those concerns of the court into effect. And then that was the statute that ultimately was brought here before council.
So, excuse me, so this issue actually had been, this discussion and had started quite a while back.
It was certainly before my time and certainly before Mr. Messer's time.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think that that was misrepresented, that this just started up just here in the last few weeks, and I just wanted to clear that up for everyone here in the audience and also folks out watching. Thank you.
And for the city attorney, I was looking for the explanation on the reviewing thing. I think that was, what was reported at the committee meeting was not entirely accurate.
Yes, sir, I apologize. I defer to Mr. Reynolds. Apparently I saw it. I honestly didn't remember. I think I probably remember now. So whatever Mr. Reynolds says, I agree with.
Well, I even saw an email exchange that clearly went back to last month, and so the only thing I can think of is you didn't see any problem with it, and it just.
Well, lest I be called senile, I think what happened is it was represented to me that the previous city attorney looked at it, and I figured with 28 years' experience, he could probably draft an ordinance. So, I passed it on without doing anything at all on it. So,
okay.
But whatever happened, whatever the documents say, I agree with.
Is that good enough, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, and just one other quick comment. If we're done with that, that's fine. But the other thing that I wanted to just talk about, because I know that we've probably got some cards from folks that want to come to the podium and speak to us tonight. But I would ask that they come and treat us with respect, as we will treat them with respect. I do not appreciate being called names, and I don't appreciate any of my peers being called names. Monday that happened, and I will not tolerate that. If it happens today, I will not listen. I will get up and leave. So if you cannot treat me with respect, I will not hear you out. So I would encourage all that comes to the podium tonight to please show us respect, and we'll show you respect in return, and that you don't help your cause when you come and name call us. So I would appreciate that for myself and my peers. I think that's the right thing to do, and I think that will advance this discussion further. Name calling gets you nowhere, and to be called anti-American, anti-homeless, non-Christian is offensive to me, and I won't tolerate it. So I might have other comments as we proceed, but I just wanted to say that too. Thank you very much.
Mr. Spencer.
I hope I'm offering this at the right time on our agenda.
Mr. Sansing, I already have your card.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to make sure.
Many of you may recall that just recently the Pensacola News Journal had some large features, or I should say readily noticeable coverage on the relocation of Avalex Technologies into the Gulf Breeze area. And certainly Tad Ians I consider him a friend. I've actually talked to him for several years about his continued pursuit. I'm sorry to say his failed pursuit to locate Avalex in the city of Pensacola. And I have permission from him to basically share any references to Tad and his efforts to be in Pensacola. I wanted to make sure that I would never speak publicly about Tad and his company without his permission. But, when a new business locates or relocates, and this is with all due respect to the Chamber, who's teaching us about the strength of regional growth. But so when a new business relocates, locates, or is growing within our region, all of the inclusive municipalities rightfully and impartially share the victory of that. It's a sense of satisfaction, and it's something, again, that the Chamber encourages us to recognize, that a win for the region benefits all. But when a municipality, when a city that already has a clean, growing industry and a business that desires and strongly desires to remain in that city, then they are confronted with basically what is maybe described as a stranglehold in the process that's necessary for that private business to grow. And that stranglehold, or that process, is so slowed down, so much so that the business pulls up their stakes and pitches tent somewhere else, that is a huge loss. There's no doubt about it, and there's no sugarcoating it, that Avalex wanted to be here in Pensacola. And not only did we lose them once, there was a scoring process that was done, and I actually this week had the city clerk pull the scorecards out from August 31st, year 2006, when Avalex did not get ranked #1, although that's, you know, he clearly wanted to be at the corner of 9th and Romana before there was a beautiful park even contemplated. And he didn't come in first there, but, you know, he showed his tenacity and his love for the city so much, he said, that's not going to kick me out of town. I'm going to continue to try to be here. So that man worked tirelessly trying to get here, and I think that it's a case study now that could be taught in business schools and city government all over. It's business recruitment, what not to do. And that individual, Tad, has said, you know, he'll do a road show for us to say what went wrong, what not to do. And he came across staff members, our CRA at the time, I'm not bashful to say, he did not consider to be the facilitator that they needed to be. And it would be a shame if we did not learn from this lesson. And so I just urge all of you to, certainly we join me in wishing Tad Eanes and Avalex the greatest success in the world. But at the same time, this was one of City of Pensacola's biggest fumbles right there at the 1-yard line. And so I want us to learn from it.
Thank you. You know, and I certainly welcome that you've put that out there, just what a major failure it was on our behalf. Looking forward, though, we've got a new sheriff in town. Actually, we have a sheriff, and we never had that before, that single point decision maker that we've got now. So hopefully that's a thing of the past that we'll be able to avoid. Ms. Myers.
Okay. This is my public forum time.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want to address the First Amendment. I have been very concerned and obviously tonight upset over what I perceive is a violation of the First Amendment right of citizens to redress their grievances to their government. Yes, we do have the right to set down some guidelines and rules, but if you look at the Supreme Court cases, the First Amendment right is the cornerstone of our democracy. Unfortunately, the First Amendment also protects speech that many of us find offensive. And you can see it on television every day, all day long. So in the context, however, of political speech, that is a highly, highly protected right. And just because you don't like to hear someone characterize the city, some action of the city council as sick, that I believe is protected speech. I see Mr. Cobb sitting out there in the audience, and I remember one night he came down here and told us we were a bunch of crooks. And so that he's entitled to that opinion, but we are also entitled to defend ourselves. But it does disturb me when I see 3 police officers standing over a citizen who is here to express his views on actions of the city council. The person was not disruptive. His characterization may not have been flattering toward us, and I believe that it was a violation of his First Amendment rights. Now, having calling police officers on citizens, and I've seen that now at the Committee of the Whole and here, has a chilling effect on a person's right to redress their grievances to the government. And I really think, and I would appreciate our city attorney giving us more guidance on this issue, because I think that we are crossing the line here. And, you know, the First Amendment has been fought over since the 1600s. Our Bill of Rights did not start here in the United States. It started in England. People have died protecting this right. Our young men and women in uniform have given up their lives, have suffered disabilities and illnesses and all types of hardship protecting this right. And to me, this is the most important right we as citizens have. And that's why I walked out. I came back because I have a duty to my constituents to be here. As far as the police coming and bringing me back in or arresting me, I've been arrested before. I've been in the Escambia County Jail many times representing inmates, so I'm very familiar with the jail. And so I didn't come back in out of fear of being arrested. I came back in because it's my duty to be here. But I did want to exercise my right to protest the manner in which Father Monk was being treated.
And that's a perfectly good example of how you can disagree and still be respectful. And I want to thank you for that.
And Sam and I are still friends.
We're still friends, yes. Dr. Wu.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I was just going to piggyback on some comments that Councilman Spencer had made earlier. And I would say that I would agree with almost everything that Councilman Spencer said. Ted Ings, I've known his parents for years. I've known him for years. He has exactly the type company that we want to have here in Pensacola, and it is a shame that he left. The part that I wanted to address includes the action of yourself, Councilman Townsend, Councilman Geralds, and myself, because we were on the council during a time period when there was a vote taken on that piece of property on who would occupy it. And what the public needs to know is that a council member who's no longer with us said that's the nicest piece of property. The council should decide who gets to build there. Now, in the past, staff has always done that, brought us a list, and the council voted. And so all of a sudden, the council got thrown in the position of deciding who should occupy that piece of land. And what I want the public to know for a historic reason, and Councilman Hall can verify this, we were instructed that the #1 priority for that piece of land was multiple use. That they wanted a situation where you would have some type of business or industry on the bottom and residential on the top. And the reason that I believe that Mr. Ng's proposal did not come and become the first proposal, there was no housing in his proposal. He had housing? Okay. Well, to the best of my knowledge, Mr. Spencer may prove me wrong, but to the best of my knowledge, there was no housing there because there was no question in my mind as far as industry and technology, he's exactly what we want. And so there were other circumstances that Mr. Spencer and I have discussed that led to it not working out. But the only part that I wanted to address was the fact that since you and I were on that council, as well as Councilman Townsend and Geralds, and do you remember us being instructed?
Well, I took many votes on the Hawkshaw property and many more that I wanted to take on the Hawkshaw property, but I'm going to throw you under the bus on this. I was not part of that, really, the scoring process.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was not part of the scoring process.
He's showing me the list here.
And now, but because of the
Well,
way.
well, right,
But beyond that, though, Mr. Ains had two different things that he was wanting to do.
Sure.
And we kind of did the pooch on both of them. So, anyway, please go ahead, Dr. Wu.
Didn't mean to throw you under the bus. That's it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Spencer?
Thanks. Just a point of clarification. I watched it very carefully, and what occurred was Mr. Ains had a business, had a desire, needed a spot to grow, and when he worked with the CRA at that time under the direction of Mr. David Bailey, that proposal was what he put in front of the CRA. CRA presented it. I was sitting here at the council meeting, and it was presented as is, and an RFP was going to be basically composed to invite business to locate there and have a certain number of jobs. And then a council member, I believe it was Marty Donovan, then decided he wanted the RFP to be much more broad, and that just completely changed the whole landscape. And that's what happened.
Thank you. Dr. Wu?
I just want to say I agree 100% with everything Councilman Spencer said.
Thank you. Reverend Nathan Monk? Welcome back, sir.
I'm going to try this again. You know, first time I met Mike Wiggins, I was in the middle of suing him. And we had a great conversation. I mean, I had a conversation with Councilwoman Pratt the other day where we substantially disagreed on a number of different issues about the camping ordinance. Had a great conversation. I mean, we've disagreed, Councilman Wu, on the camping issue on a couple of different points. I know that Brian Spencer, I accidentally lumped him in a demographic of people who thought a certain way at a council meeting one time and had to apologize to him about that. I know you and I got into it one time and disagreed over the issue with Rusty Wells. I don't know if you remember it because you get to talk to a whole heck of a lot more people than just me. But, you know, I was part of a group that accidentally offended Councilman Townsend. Councilman Geralds and I disagree on the issue of the
curfew.
Kids not being out after 11. Councilman Myers and I don't disagree too much, but every now and again she says something that gets under my skin too.
And you know, Reverend, there's very little you and I have disagreed on over the years.
Well, I've probably been the most mean to Councilwoman DeWeese. You know, I mean, we have gone and public records request each other's public records requests. But I still, in spite of all that, heavily respect a lot of the issues that she stands for and votes on. I haven't sued you yet, but, you know, we're getting there. It's going to happen, but we're going to shake hands and walk away at it. I probably agree the most with Chip Simmons. He agrees that he doesn't want to arrest me and I don't want to be arrested, and so we can get along on that issue, you know. But I am not happy and will remain unhappy about what happened tonight. I will remain unhappy about what happened on Monday. And I'm not going to let this issue die down. I, tonight, was not comparing this government to any other government or any other villainous character. I was defending the right of other people to do so. And if other people do not have the right to, when they see red flags go up in their government that remind us of negative things that have happened in history, if they cannot draw those comparisons and bring that to the attention of their government. I mean, Hitler, who's been the big, like, you know, just catchphrase and tag word. People voted for him. We should remember that. He campaigned, and people went and voted for that guy. That's a problem. And so if we can't bring up these issues and draw comparisons when we see negative things happen based on history, then we are doomed to repeat it. And what does happen when we are in negative systems of government is that once we start drawing those comparisons and people start connecting the dots, they limit that speech. And that is a problem. So I will continue to stay on top of this issue because I believe people have a right to say what they want to say, especially when it's addressing their government. And if you're going to haul me off in handcuffs, I can't wait to have you name a street after me.
Thank you, Reverend Monk. Ms. Dubuisson.
Good evening, Council. That's a tough act to follow, particularly with my gray matter as old as it is. I've got a tablet full of notes that I made this evening, but I'm rising to speak in memory of my father, who is the one who first taught me about government. When I was 8 years old, when he had me dial the governor of the state and introduce myself to him over the phone, because he said a person should always be able to speak to their government. And believe it or not, the governor of Louisiana received the call from me, said, "I'm glad to hear from you, Miss Hebert," which was my maiden name at that point. And the next time he met me, I was 15 years old, and he was a retired governor, and he remembered it. But it made an impression upon me because my father taught me that a government can only govern well if it listens to its citizens. He also taught me that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and so we have established checks and balances in all good government formats, and we should preserve those balances. He also taught me to leave every place better than you find it. And I try to do that in every moment, whether it's picking up the plastic cups that other citizens leave in your chambers when you have your committee of the whole, or if it's picking up the branches that the squirrels have dropped on the sidewalk that might trip one of Miss Meyer's individuals who's having trouble going down the sidewalk, or whether it's redoing a rental house when I've had to rent because I was not in a position to own a home. I have always tried to make every space I'm in better by being a part of it. The final thing that I would like for you to know that my father taught me was that you may have the right to do something, but it is not always right to do it. And for that reason, I'm asking you all to please look very carefully at all the actions which individually and collectively are being done in the name of the city of Pensacola in this moment. And rather than arguing constantly about who has the right, who has the ultimate legal, ethical, prosecutable ability to do something, let's look at what can we do to make this place better by choosing to do what is right in every moment to the best of our ability and by being the checks and balances for each other. Mr. Hall, you and I have agreed on some things, we have disagreed on some. I have agreed with Ms. Myers on some and disagreed on some. I have agreed with Mr. Weiss on some and disagreed. I can go down the line continually. But I know that I respect your right to share the information and the experiences that you bring to your positions, and hopefully that you hear and appreciate and respect my opinions when I share them for you. I'm not asking that you give them any more weight than any other citizen, and I'll say that again. Don't give my opinion the weight over any other citizen. For every citizen, no matter what their experience, no matter what their expertise, no matter what their wealth, their assets, is just as important to this community as any of us. Tonight, I would ask you the respect that you keep from the pulpit, and I'm going to call it a pulpit because that's the effect that we're having in this moment. You keep saying, give us respect. I'm asking you to do the same for the citizens. I hope the mayor is listening, as his office has suggested he is, because Mr. Hayward knows that I respect him greatly. He and I have agreed on many things, and we've disagreed on many things. I grab him when I can, and like an old grandmother, tell him where he's messing up, in my opinion, and where he's doing right, in my opinion. And he and I may agree on some things, and we may disagree on some things, but I believe we both have respect for each other. And it's because of the process of dialoguing that I continue to strive to establish. And I would like to ask this council, rather than having brief conversations and lectures to each other, let's try to dialogue more openly as a community, because that's where real communication happens, when there's an open flow back and forth. Thank you for the time.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Dubuisson. And I think there's a good lesson in what you had to say for every one of us here, out in the audience, and those who may be watching at TV as well. And I really do take your comments to heart there. I'm just going to follow on to a little bit of what Ms. Dubuisson added at the very end. You know, it becomes very awkward for us sometimes, the way our committee structure is set up, to be able to just sit there and dialogue. So what I want you guys to do is put on your thinking caps and think about where the best place to do that might be, where we can just go and chat to our heart's content. I would ask that if we do it at the committee meetings, that we do it right before the area where we're going to be putting things on the agenda, but that we have set a time limit for that. And I'd ask the council to be the one to set that. But I think probably better than that would be once a quarter is for us to just get together for a workshop, for nothing else than to just sit there and brainstorm and gripe among one another. It would also be open to the public, to where they could just come and throw ideas and complaints at us. But I want to keep the business of the committee of the whole focused on that agenda for just a number of reasons. To respect the people on the committee, but also those that are involved in that. They also have private lives that they've got to get to, whether it's somebody doing business with the city or staff members themselves. They need to have some sort of predictability there. And I think it just raises our standing a bit to be able to conduct that in a business-like manner. Now, on the other hand, it doesn't always provide the friendliest atmosphere for people to come and just talk to us, or for us to just sit there and have a dialogue. I ask for you to put your thinking caps on, and perhaps at the next committee of the whole, when we get to the agenda items, somebody can bring that up. Thank you. Mr. Michael Kimball. Welcome, sir.
Good evening. Michael Kimbrell, 1724 East Brainerd. Let me start by saying that what an honor and privilege it must be for this council to have been graced by the presence of so many of Time Magazine's People of the Year for the past couple of months. I will say that I found it very interesting that members of this council were offended by having their Christianity called into question. I want to remind all of them that the people who called it into question were local religious leaders. They were pastors of local churches. So instead of being offended, I think it would be better served if everyone reflected upon the teachings of your religion, because I'm sure that you will find that your religion, whatever it may be, I personally don't consider myself a Christian, but whatever your religion may be, the adoption of our county's panhandling ordinance, even though I know it was very popular, it not only affects the poor in our community, but it affects nonprofits, firefighters, the newspaper hawkers, and when it was adopted, not a single member of this council questioned it. And y'all had the power to question it, y'all had the power to overturn it, and not a single one of you even questioned, not a single question. Not only then, you tabled that camping ordinance to be retweaked. I'm sorry, but there is no way you can rework that ordinance to where it will not affect the poor in this community. and it is cold out, and you can take away the blankets, and the people are still going to shiver. You know, you take away newspapers, they're still going to, shiver. It's cold. They need these things. Some of them are out there because they choose to be out there. They don't want anything to do with this society. And with what I've been seeing in our government, local and federal, these past few months, I'm starting to wonder if I want to have anything to do with this society as well. The next thing I want to address is y'all have stated numerous times that y'all wanted the people of Occupy Pensacola to address local issues. And I keep hearing y'all say that, and I personally have heard many things be addressed that are local issues, ranging from our water quality, the homeless issues, our many Superfund sites, telephone poles leaching chemicals into the soil, pharmaceuticals in the soil, and the obesity rate, just to name a few of the things. I've also heard them talk about building a better community in this city, but instead, y'all keep asking, what are y'all's local issues? So I am questioning your hearing. But instead of allowing these people to address their grievances and get together in public discourse, which is our right and duties of all Americans, this city has forced our local police officers to crack down on these people. I personally support our local law enforcement. My uncle just retired a few months ago. Mr. Simmons knows him. I've talked with Mr. Simmons and introduced myself to him. And so I'm sure that puts our local police force in a very precarious situation, knowing that they have friends of theirs whose relatives are out there that they're having to harass. None of these people have been violent in any way. It was a peaceful protest. There have been some people that have caused problems, but the problems that they've had down there are not problems with Occupy, they're problems with this society. And these people were addressing those problems and how to solve those problems.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Sansing.
Gary Sansing, citizen of the county. I'm not going to give my address because I'll be losing time. Thank you, Ms. Myers. You hit it right on the head. One thing that bothers me worse than anything when people threaten that First Amendment, that just gets me going. I'll take a lot of abuses, but don't take that right away. I agree with all of them, but I don't like to see people burning flags. That'll kill. I mean, that First Amendment, I have had a concern with this city since the get-go of my appealing, even first appearing here. All the subcommittees and people have tried to limit your vote. They try and keep you quiet. I hope, I doubt it, the ACLU, but we will reach out to something like League of Women Voters. You all remember Leroy Boyd and Byron Kiesler. Why do we have to go to court to get civil rights, the basic First Amendment? Another thing, you know, our Homeland Security advisor, I can't pronounce her last name, but you might know her. You know, about 2.5 weeks ago, she held a conference with, I think it was in excess of 30 mayors from across the country, how to deal with us so-called homeless, Occupy, outer-line citizens. Telling the mayors, we can provide you shields, rubber bullets, tear gas, whatever you need, unlimited, we have it. And we do have a new chief in town. He's a reasonable, very good man, and we do have a new sheriff. I think these are reasonable people that ain't gonna come out in the middle of the night like they do in Oakland and New York and destroy private property. We are the terrorists, according to Homeland Security. That's what they're leading us to. Maybe we go there, but I don't want to. I try to treat you all with respect. And sometimes I've gotten less from you guys, not including the ladies, of course. And that makes me very angry, and if you get in my face too much, I can be pushed to the limit. Now, dealing with the new Time magazine issue of the year, it's wonderful. You know, I stayed up and watched the reporter and the editor talk about this. This is an issue. It's like I have tried to educate you people of why Occupation Wall Street. I've reached out to a lot of government people and the county, but I haven't reached out yet to you people. I will inform you how our government has taken the dreams from your children and your grandchildren away. Can you believe it? It's unbelievable. I was speaking with two young people this afternoon, high school and college. I mean, they gave me the amount that they're very glad I encouraged them to take a class on economics. They ain't in the IB program, but they should be. But they're too involved. We are leaving these people with wounded vets, indebtedness, and corrupt government. It's the way it looks. I mean, I think it's MF Global, Kozai, another Goldman Sachs senator and governor who happens to disappear. He can't account for $200 million. And when you see the articles I will present you with, and buy a new Time magazine, and welcome home. Hope you had a good trip. And Sam, you can learn from the way she ran her Madam President. Open, transparent, and I'll give you hope.
Thank you, Mr. Sam.
You got 90 days. It's called grace period.
Okay,
honeymoon.
Thank you, Mr. Sansing. Ms. DeWeese.
Thank you, Mr. President. And first, my apology for having to speak. I know it's late. I do just want to clarify something. The comments that Mr. Kimbrell made, and I hate that he's gone because I know he stayed late to speak. I found it ironic in November having my words that I had said at a previous meeting read back to me, and first of all, so misinterpreted, and also read in anger, because I certainly don't sit on this dais in anger, and I don't represent my constituents in an angry posture. My comments on Monday about questioning our Christianity and whether we're patriotic or not, and the comparisons that were drawn, my concern is this, and what I stated is that, how do we listen to someone that must tear us down? I think the issues that you come to debate, you have every right to speak your piece, but they should stand on their own. There is value in what everyone has to say. You shouldn't have to tear down this council either individually or as a whole. We care deeply about this city, and that's why we sit here. So my comments were not out of shock, because when I think of my faith and what I learned, the last thing that I heard at a sermon was, what have you done with the gifts you've been given? Whether that's at the end of your life or on a daily basis. My children laugh at me. Every day we ride to school and I say, look at the day that God has made. And they go, oh, and they look and they remember and they know. So I say individually, you're coming here to try to make a difference. We sit on this dais to try to make a difference. We're not your enemy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dan Wallace. Mr. Wallace? Okay. Miss Amanda Vandenwall.
Real quick, while we're waiting on her to come up, thank you, Mr. President. I was wondering if Mr. Kimbrough, I know he mentioned the concerns about the panhandling ordinance, and I believe that was initiated by the county, and I'm just wondering if he's voiced his concerns at a county commission meeting. It seems they have. I was just wondering because I'm not familiar with them attending those meetings. And the second thing I'd like to bring up too is I just recently got back from a two-day vacation. Much needed, may I add. And I noticed in a walk between Washington Square and Union Square that there was a church. There was a church there that I happened to pass by, and they had a real nice yard. And the church had a fence around the yard, with stakes on the top of the fence. And I was just wondering who these Christians were trying to keep out of this beautifully manicured yard. And I'd like to have that conversation with Reverend Monk, not at this time, but maybe in the next few days, him and I can talk about this beautiful church with this beautiful manicured yard and the fence that was around that yard, who they were trying to keep out. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back.
I just wanted to make make sure that everybody remembered that I didn't attack anybody. I didn't call you guys any names. The only thing that I said was maybe if I was wearing a suit, what my words would be more powerful. Obviously, maybe a collar, that would work too. But I'm 27. I've lived here for 11 years. I live on Summit Boulevard. I'm the daughter of a disabled vet that moved here, retired here. The mother of a special needs child, an employee, and a volunteer. I feel that I was disrespected and my rights were attacked at the committee meeting on Monday. My voice is not the loudest, but I speak from my heart and I back it with facts. I feel that I was totally on topic because I waited until the ESP loan proposal. I waited until after you had your discussions, and then you opened it up for public. And I actually was the second one in line. But I also wrote that on my card too, that I wanted to talk about this, but that was ignored. I just wanted to make sure that people were aware that the bankers had us focused on the interest rate, but didn't give a term. And on a $5 million loan, if it was like even just a 10-year loan, the bank would make over $545,000 just in 10 years, just on the interest, on that 2.09% interest. It's $545,000, and then they were still wanting to tack on an extra almost $39,000, and that's part of the problem that we're having. That's why Occupy Wall Street and this movement is so important. Hancock Bank, in particular, the bank is a for-profit company. They also recently acquired Whitney Bank in a $1.5 billion deal, and Whitney Bank was one of the banks that was bailed out. They received over $300 million in 2008. Yeah, I guess you guys already voted, so that's fine. But our movement is still strong, with or without our tents. We would really like them back because we were much more productive and effective that way. But I just wanted to give you a part of the statement from Occupy DC on why we occupy. Part of it is financial institutions gambled with our savings, homes, and economy. They collapsed the financial system and needed the public to bail them out of their failures, yet deny any responsibility and continue to fight oversight. Corporations loot from those whose labor creates society's prosperity, while the government allows them to privatize profits and socialize risk. Corporate interests threaten life on Earth by extracting and burning fossil fuels and resisting the necessary transition to renewable energy. Their drilling, mining, clear-cutting, overfishing, and factory farming destroys the land, jeopardizes our food and water, poisons the soil with near impunity. They privilege polluters over people by subsidizing fossil fuels, blocking investments in clean energy and efficient transportation, and hiding environmental destruction from public oversight. Private corporations, with the government's support, use common resources and infrastructure for short-term personal profit while stifling efforts to invest in public good. Government authorities cultivate a culture of fear to invade our privacy, limit assembly, restrict speech, and deny due process. They have failed in their duty to protect our rights. Exacerbated by profiteering interests, the criminal justice system has unfairly targeted underprivileged communities and outspoken groups for prosecution rather than protection. Leaders are trading our access to basic needs in exchange for handouts to the ultra-wealthy. Our rights to health care, education, food, water, and housing are sacrificed to profit-driven market forces. They are attacking unemployment insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, creating an uncertain future for us all.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Vandenwall. And Mr. Jeffrey Scott.
My name is Jeffrey Scott. I am no longer officially a member of Occupy Pensacola. They have voted me out, and I'm okay with that. I have another mission now. I am a follower of Christ. I intended to read this Bible before I even knew what Monday's meeting was about and what happened. I was recently illegally arrested and on false accusations. I broke no law. Hear my words. I break no laws anymore. I don't need to, because I follow the law of the land that I live on. The true law, the 10 Commandments that our law system is built on. I do not steal. That's enough about me. Let's read a little Bible verse from Psalms 15, because today is the 15th day of December. And I always read Psalms on the day of the month, the 15th day, the 15th Psalm, the 15th proverb, 15th verses in a lot of the books in here. Give me a second while I find it, please. And I'm just going to read the first and last verse, the first verse and the 5th verse, because it's the Alpha and the Omega of what it is talking about. Please pay attention. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of scornfuls. And sorry, that wasn't Psalms 15, that was Psalms 1. The Alpha. Lord, who shall abide in thy tabernacle? Who shall dwell in thy holy hill? He that walketh uprightly and worketh righteousness, and speaketh the truth in his heart. He that putteth not his money to usury, he that does not charge interest for money, nor taketh reward against the innocent, nor takes my money, and when I'm innocent, by putting me in jail, takes my time. He that does these things shall never be moved. If you're not doing these things, you will be moved. I shall not be moved. I thank you all. You have all given me so many gifts, all of you, including you, sir. Including you, sir, City Attorney, that I don't know your name. Including you, Ms. DeWeese. Including you, Ms. Myers. Including you, tonight, have given me many gifts. Including you, Mr. Johnson. Including you, Mr. Spencer. Including you, Dr. Wu. Including you. Including you, City Clerk. Including you. Including you. Including all of the true City Council that I know and have talked to. Because they gave me counsel, because they went out to occupy Pensacola, because they live in Pensacola, they occupy Pensacola. I have done so for 26 years, and I will continue to do so until I choose not to. I will occupy Pensacola in that fashion until I choose to occupy somewhere else. So when you ask us, when will the Occupy movement end? When I die is when my movement will end, because I will no longer occupy any more land except for the ground I'm buried in. I hope I have a long time left, because I got a lot of work to do. We all do. That's the problem. We talked about switching government. How there was, I think that was you. We talked about switching government and how it takes a lot of work. Can I please have more time?
No, that's enough, sir. Thank you.
There's a lot of work. Happy holidays.
Happy
I love you all.
Happy holidays.
Thank you for the gift. My gift was a reality check tonight.
Mr. Landon Godwin.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. If we could, from now on, if we could, please remind our speakers, if they would, give us their address for the record. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, all. I don't really know how to follow that. My name is Landon Brooks. I choose not to give my address. There's a lot of talk about pushing Pensacola forward tonight and improving it. Well, behind that building, there's a park being built. It's a multi-million-dollar investment where a very large homeless community lived for years. There's a lot of money going into sidewalks and development around that area. Well, I'm not going to get into the big controversy about Maritime Park. That's a dead horse. It's happening. But it almost seems like with the money that was invested to build a baseball stadium and a couple $1 million for some sidewalks, that those people could have been put in adequate housing, or we could have invested for shelters, or to investigate our water to investigate the Superfund sites, to put sidewalks and lights into the majority of Pensacola's neighborhoods. We're a very poor city. We have literal shanty towns in our city. I don't know if you're aware of that. There are shanty towns. I've lived in neighborhoods where they're next to me. I mean, if we're going to invest money in our community, we need to understand that invest money in eliminating poverty, homelessness. The value and beauty of your city is not attributed to how much capital comes in and out of your city, or how many pretty neighborhoods we have for a small minority to enjoy. The value of a city is the quality of life of the people who inhabit that city. And we talk about, this transitional government we kind of have right now. Well, from my understanding, the last government wasn't even working right. It wasn't. How are we going to make this one work if we're not even assessing the problems we had in our community under the old government? It seems like there's more bureaucracy functioning in this building than there is actual progress for our city. And when you talk about the Occupy movement, whatever, I'm not religious at all. I'm not a Christian. I'm not Buddhist. I'm not any religion. But there's a lot of Christian language floating around this time of year with everyone. It's a very religious time of year. I understand that. Everyone throws around their faith. A lot of it's just, a bandwagon. A lot of people are very sincere. But if you want people to have a Merry Christmas and you actually say Happy Holidays, well, give people tents to sleep in as a Christmas present, because this new ordinance, you're not going to stop people from trying to stay warm. That's basic human instinct. The law does not compare to human instinct. If you're cold, you're going to get warm. If that means purposely getting arrested to go to jail, you're going to do that. If you have to eat, you're going to walk into a store and steal it. If you're literally starving to death, you're going to do it. So the only thing that's going to happen if you pass this ordinance is that some people are going to profit off of it. That's a given. It's the way it works. And some people are going to go to jail. A lot of things happen in jail. There was a guy in jail in 2010. I think his name was Mark Duggan. He was in jail for missing court. He ended up being put into a cell with a convicted murderer who was notorious for attacking inmates. The inmate pretty much beat him to death because he missed court. He was put in jail. That's a problem. You want to talk about a local grievance? My mom was in the hospital for 13 days. She literally almost died over the weekend. She just got laid off by Cintas. It's a national security corporation. My stepfather's a sheriff. He doesn't make crap. What's my mom going to do? She spent 13 days in a hospital. Adequate health care, education, proper cities for working class people to live in, investing in eliminating poverty. These are things we should do, and not baseball stadiums. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cobb.
Thank you, Mr. President. Charles Cobb. Gentlemen, I'm from the old school. Whoever runs a business has the job. He controls it. The organization I am, the man sitting at the top, he controls it. If people gets out of line, he has right to stop it right then and there. I must commend Chief. They did an excellent job. Chief, I saw you the other night. Appreciate you being out there. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Chief was at a meeting we had, talking to him, and there was a county commissioner, and I said, about the parade downtown. And the county commissioner said, what kind of parade is it? Elected officials? Didn't say nothing. Miss Myers, you said I said call people crooks here. Some of the past county city councilmen, I believe so. But they all gone now. But you'd like to see more tax on gas for mass transit. Last week ago, Tuesday, gas went up to $2.28 a gallon here. We got a 1 cent sale tax in the city of Pensacola. Go across the river, going west. Around Lockley, gas was $2.15. Go over to the west side of Mobile, $2.08. Get in Biloxi, Gulfport, $2.99, $2.89. Get to over in New Orleans, $2.95. How come gas went up from $2.88? From the Saturday before, it was $2.20, $2.88, and dropped back down. The price of gas has gone down on the spot market. All has gone down. But the people in Pensacola be paying more. There is more tax Florida has on gas than most other states. That's why their gas is cheaper. People don't complain about the government. Yes, the government don't do this. Who do that? They complain. But you know what's so wrong with them? They haven't got it up here. Who put y'all in office? We do. Look at the number of people who vote. Half of them don't vote, but they come down here and cry. We don't like this. We don't like that. If you don't vote, keep your mouth shut. Get up and vote. If you don't like them, vote them out of office. If you like them, vote for them. Right, Mr. Johnson? I see that smile on your face. But that's right. Also, the older thing is, politics and religion do not mix. Let's keep the religion out of here and do our jobs. I know there's people in here got the head cover, hats on in here. My day, when you come into a business like this, the county commissioner, your hat come off. You go into church, your hat come off. You don't keep a stocking cap on your head. Come in here, let's be gentlemen and ladies. Act like it. If you want respect, you give respect.
Well, sir, I'm going to stop you there. I don't want you to be making personal.
No, I ain't.
attacks
I'm
on
just
the-
stating facts right there.
Thank you.
But I'm just saying what goes down the line. But I respect everything. Brother Rue, I missed you on the 29th of October. You didn't show up, but we had a good time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. And no other business for City Council? We're adjourned. Awards and presentations. Mr. City Administrator. We're going to do things a little differently this time. City Administrator is going to read his remarks from the lectern down here. Those that are receiving either the Employee of the Month Award or time pins, I would like for you to come around and start on this end and come up towards me. I'll give you your award, and then you can proceed down and this way and shake the rest of council's hands and end up with the City Administrator. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the effort to make this go a little smoother than me jumping around all over the place, we'll see how this works out. First of all, Employee of the Month. In order to more strongly emphasize the city's commitment to outstanding performance, one employee is recognized as the Employee of the Month. Please recognize Bradley Vinson, librarian, West Florida Public Library, as Employee of the Month for October. And while Bradley is making her way up, I will read what the plaque states. Bradley Vinson, Library, Employee of the Month for December of 2011. The City of Pensacola is proud to recognize Bradley Vinson as Employee of the Month for December. Bradley joined the Technical Services Department at the West Florida Public Library as head cataloger in 2006. She quickly became an invaluable member of the Tech Services team, taking on more and more responsibility in the operation of the department. Bradley's skills and expertise have also been utilized outside the department, as she has been called upon to create and conduct computer training for library staff and to head a committee that explored anti-theft and security options for the library system. She constantly shows great initiative in finding workable solutions to the challenges faced by tech services and the library in general, whether it's finding the best and most consistent way to catalog and process a variety of materials or exploring ways to accommodate the various wishes of department and branch heads. Because she is an excellent employee who consistently exceeded performance expectations, we are proud to recognize Bradley Vinson as Employee of the Month for December 2011. Ashton J. Hayward III, Mayor. And now we have employee service pins. Each month, we have employees who reach milestones in their careers with the city. These milestones, which are observed at 5-year intervals, are symbols of commitment, hard work, and dedication in serving the people of Pensacola. Employees are the city's most important asset. As part of the city team, they individually and jointly seek ways to improve the quality and efficiency of services to every citizen. Tonight, we have the opportunity to publicly recognize and thank this special group of employees. As I call your names, would you please come forward to receive an award of the city's appreciation and be recognized by a member of council and this community. For 20 years, Mr. Dan Flynn, Assistant Airport Director of Operations. In Dan's 20 years of employment at the airport, he has held a wide range of duties at which he has excelled. His commitment and dedication to the airport has allowed him to gain a wealth of knowledge of the federal and local guidelines that are invaluable to the airport's operations. In his current position, he is charged with ensuring the airport's compliance with FAA certification requirements and TSA security requirements, in addition to oversight of all airport construction projects. Some of Dan's most notable accomplishments to date have been his oversight of the $45 million plus airfield pavement replacement project that took place between 2000 and 2008, and the $82 million plus terminal landside project, which began in 2006 and is nearing completion with the current Loop Road project. Dan is a valuable asset, and his commitment to the airport has been and continues to be instrumental to the airport's ongoing success. At 25 years, Sergeant Robert Hurst. Sergeant Hurst has spent the past 25 years dedicating his life to the city of Pensacola. Among his assignments has been investigations, TAC, and uniform patrol, where he currently supervises one of the day squads. He is a decorated officer who has risked his life several times to stop people from hurting themselves or others, and who can be counted upon for his professionalism and knowledge when overseeing the training of new officers. For 30 years, Sergeant David Goldsmith. It would be difficult to find someone in Pensacola who doesn't know or who hasn't heard of Sergeant David Goldsmith, who supervises the Pensacola Police Department's traffic unit and also is its special events coordinator. And I have to tell you, one of the first people that I met on the police force actually was Sergeant Goldsmith, as I was enjoying one of the events that we had downtown. Sergeant Goldsmith is responsible not only for coordinating parades, runs, walks, festivals, and other events with various organizations, but also for monitoring traffic problems within the city limits. And that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I can have Mr. Dick Barker give his financial report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. President, members of City Council, this is the first financial report that I have given for fiscal year 2012, and it represents the months of October and November. There's usually not much activity that occurs or much to report on, but at Council's request and the Mayor's request, I'll be glad to just go over a few of the facts that we have here. The first that you see is that we only had 1 month of collection in all our revenue categories, and the franchise fees, utility taxes are down by about 10.63%. The half-cent sales tax is down by 3.36%. And the communication services tax is down by about 11%. At this point, there is no concern with just 1 month of collection in, based on how we calculate these numbers. So we'll continue to watch them and see. After we get 3 or 4 months of numbers in, it'll sort of give us a trend of how we're going to be looking during fiscal year 2012. The local option sales tax is also down, with local option gasoline tax up about 11.31%. But all these revenues are just 1 month of collections that we have. And then the tree planting trust fund, the unappropriated balance as of December 12th is $679,769. The park purchases account is $37,914. And then council had also requested at each of the monthly briefings that we go over the contracts that had been let that the mayor had signed, and these are since October. The first contract is to Hub City Ford Mercury for vehicle purchase, and they were in the amount of $69,000. Sparksman Chevrolet also for some vehicle purchases. The Escambia County for the MPDS, we do that annually, and it was $36,000 this year. Mayor Electric for some lighting devices on Main Street, and that was $86,242. Trimble Construction for $87,900. VB Hill LLC for $56,648. Sequel Electric Company for $52,200. H2 Performance for consulting as it relates to the MIS department and review of that department activities of $36,590. Respect to Florida for janitorial services at the airport for $514,661. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions. If you have any questions.
Yes, any questions, comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Barker.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure you have it before you, Mr. Reynolds, but Mr. Spears has about a 3 to 4 minute presentation on the Maritime Park.
That's correct, and that's the next thing. If we could have Mr. Spears come up, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. Mr. Reynolds, good evening. This is the monthly update on the Community Maritime Park that City Council has requested. I'll briefly run through the photographs to give you the best idea of what is happening across the street. This is a broad view of the construction. You can see a great deal of activity, probably 10 to 15 different subcontractors on site constantly on a daily basis, 200 to 300 workers on site as we near completion. We are less than or right at 100 days until the contract with our general contractor expires for completion. This is an aerial shot. This was last month that you saw, and this is December 1st. You can see the stormwater pond has been completed. The field is progressing at the stadium, and the site work is continuing on the property. Another angle there. This is the Western Clubhouse last month. As you can see, we had finished the stucco on the upper part, and we're beginning to relocate to do the brickwork on the bottom. This is a photograph taken this morning. The brickwork has been complete. The Western Clubhouse on the interior is being completed as well. This is the concession area on the second floor of the Western Clubhouse. They're beginning to put in the various equipment and close up the walls at that location. This is the Western Clubhouse. This is the team's restroom facility and the team locker room. As you can see, all of the stucco has, all of the sheetrock has been installed and the building is being painted currently. This is the press box building, which is the center of the three buildings. This was how it looked a month ago. This is how it looked this morning. The brickwork has been complete. The stucco work is nearing complete on the exterior, and we'll begin painting that structure in the next few days. This is from the interior of the press box at the press level. The various small rooms, radio, TV, announcers, they each will have their own space to prevent any noise issues for the various media that will be reporting on the game. This is the Northern Clubhouse, which is for the visiting team as well as the umpires. This is how it looked last month. The building has been completely enclosed. All of the waterproofing has been completed, and they're beginning to brick the building. This picture was taken this morning as well. The field has progressed nicely since last month. This was a photograph from early November. This was just a few weeks ago, and last month, and this was taken today. As you can see, most of the rock layer has been installed for the drainage system. The entire cross-section of the field is about 2 feet thick in order to properly drain this field, and this field can drain 5 inches of rain per hour. You see the rock layer, which is the white crushed rock they are bringing in. It's called the root zone. It's topsoil to you and me. That's the area that the grass will grow into and establish its roots. That will be followed by the sod here in about 2 weeks. Stadium lighting has been completed. This was a photograph yesterday of the last light being erected that will light the stadium. Very impressive process if you had a chance to view it over the last couple of days, raising up those lights and joining them together with the base section. This is the light pole in that picture. It's 130 feet tall. It is wind rated for a hurricane up to 140 mile per hour. The lights on the very top, I don't want to be the one to change those light bulbs, but fortunately they are guaranteed for 25 years for their natural life. The site work, to me, has been the most impressive change since last month. This is in November. This is the southern promenade. This morning you can see the pavers being installed. Here's a close-up to show you the detail on the southern promenade. The artistic design, the variation in color, it really is coming together nicely in that area. This is the western promenade. They're getting close to installing the pavers in that area, working towards the north. You can see curbs and gutters and sidewalks going in throughout the property. This is the south area by the western clubhouse looking back to the north. This is the western entrance coming into Villers Street. You can see sidewalks have been poured, curb and gutters have been poured, and they're moving into the rock base for the actual road itself at those locations. The amphitheater is under construction. All of the grade beams and piles have been poured. They're doing backfill now and awaiting for the structural steel, which will arrive at the end of the month, and then they'll go vertical with that building. The mitigation site is nearing completion. That was last month. This was an aerial to give you an idea of the scale of this project. The existing Bruce Beach mitigation site is the well-established green area in the middle, the new breakwater to the south of that, and there is a small connection in the middle that has been opened up, so we have one continuous tidal creek at that location now, and they will begin planting in the next 2 weeks of the salt marsh. And I will be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Spears.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have 2 things I'd like to cover really quickly, if I may, at this point.
Okay.
The first one is the discussion that has not been lost upon the office of the mayor in regards to whether or not the mayor should be present at these particular meetings. And this is something that, is frankly, to me, being an outsider coming in, I was kind of shocked by. And there were a couple reasons for that. Probably the first one is that, in looking at the history of this particular issue, it apparently was solved, at least for all appearances, it should have been solved last November when the then city attorney had made an opinion, Mr. Wells, who said that certainly the mayor has the right to be at these meetings, but it's certainly not required under his view of the charter. And probably the biggest reason for that is that unlike the old form of government, where the mayor not only was the chair of the meetings, but also had a vote. And because of that, and in looking at the charter language itself, his opinion is that although the mayor certainly should be here, if there is something important that he thinks he needs to address personally, much as when he delivers his yearly budgets, or if there are any other issues of that magnitude, then he will be here. But he is represented by the office of the mayor, and that, frankly, at this point is in my persona. But in looking at it, that opinion was also ratified by the current city attorney. And so the issue is whether or not the mayor should be here. The mayor in the office of the mayor is present, and part of what I do is help to convey what his issues are on a meeting-by-meeting basis. The other issue is a little more troubling, and frankly, part of everything that we've been discussing in the last several months since I've been here, the real contentious issues, have revolved around the switch in our form of government. I've had the pleasure of going through a similar switch in government before, and so I can certainly understand that it's a long process and there are pinch points that need to be addressed over time. But there really is a correct form for doing that, and there's a difference between a political question, which we can disagree on, and then trying to bump such discussions into a realm that they really aren't appropriate. And earlier this week, former City Councilwoman Diane Mack filed a complaint with the State's Attorney's Office alleging criminal conduct on the behalf of the mayor. In fact, she alleged that because the mayor had paid city employees, had authorized the payment of city employees $750, by the way, which is the only compensation increase they've had since 2007, that somehow that action was not just politically something that she didn't agree with, but that it was actually criminal. Well, I'm happy to report that today the state's attorney delivered his verdict on her accusations. And I'm going to quote here a little bit, if you don't mind, Mr. President, and that's simply because I think this is incredibly important. The state's attorney's office stated that the charter for the city of Pensacola provides that the mayor has the power to exercise the executive powers of the city and to supervise all departments, including but not limited to the power to appoint, discipline, and remove all officers and employees. And the state's attorney goes on to say that much like Ms. Mack had alleged in her complaint, that this appears to be in conflict with a certain position, with a certain ordinance, and that specifically is Section 9, TAC 3, TAC 24. The state's attorney in his analysis determined that in language that should bring it into the debate, the state's attorney opined that the city, and I quote, "The city charter provides that if a conflict exists between the provisions of the charter and the code of ordinances, the charter provisions control." Now, this is actually in line with two other legal opinions that the mayor has relied upon in the past, both from an independent attorney, and that is Michael Matamore of the law firm of Allen, Norton, and Blue, and also is the opinion of the Pensacola City attorney. So now we have three different attorneys looking at this same issue. You know, and I guess just as looking at this as frankly being the outsider looking in, and you know, I've only been here approximately 5-6 months at this point. It's really unfortunate that the political disagreements and the political discussions that we will have, you know, get forced into venues that they simply don't have a place, and to somehow suggest that someone who is trying in a good faith effort, being the mayor, trying to recognize the hardworking employees of this city, that somehow that action is criminal, you know, that really is a little bit beyond the pale. And that is what the state's attorney has essentially said. This is not a criminal issue, and there are no issues that he has with it. And with that, Mr. Chair, I am done with the mayor's report.
Thank you, sir. Okay, it brings us council communications. Any communications? Ms. Myers and then Ms. Deweese.
Well, I would like to address a couple of things. First I'm going to address is Mr. Reynolds' comments. I disagree with his, I don't know if he's giving a legal opinion here. I mean, he keeps, I haven't seen the memorandum from the Attorney General's office. So was that sent to council?
This actually was an opinion from the state's attorney, ma'am.
From the state attorney?
That's
okay,
correct.
Okay, not the Attorney General.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I think it would have been nice if you had sent that to City Council because it's obviously an important issue. And I believe that the mayor has both the power and the conjunctive word and duty to attend City Council meetings. And I certainly anticipated that when I was a strong supporter, and still am, of the charter, and because I believe that we need a person in a leadership position who's answerable to the people rather than a city manager who was not answerable to the people. That was one of the primary reasons I supported the charter. And I never anticipated that the mayor would not attend council meetings. So as far as the compensation to employees, they deserved a raise. Unfortunately, we, the council, whose function is legislative and budgetary, did not get the budget until 6 days before we went into our budget deliberations. There was not enough time to look at that budget. I believe we had the money to give the employees a raise. Unfortunately, the council did not have time to deliberate that issue. In January, will bring forward request that an agenda item be placed on our Committee of the Whole agenda to discuss an ordinance that will require the mayor to provide the budget to the council in a sufficient manner for us to make the types of deliberations we need to make. I have questions as to the legality of the bonus under both state law and Florida and our local ordinance, which provides that bonuses have to be approved by city council. And that did not happen. And that's one of the reasons I think it's important that the mayor attend these meetings so that we can have this kind of dialogue. And so I think that I have never seen any case law or attorney general's opinions regarding whether or not the mayor is required by law. You can frame it as a political issue all you want to. This is also a legal issue. And it kind of bothers me that we're sitting here with the city attorney, but our city administrator is basically telling us what the law is. And so that's all I want to say on that. But the most important thing that I want to say tonight is I am very happy that the Iraq War is coming to an end. And I just want to thank all of our dedicated servicemen and women and families who have sons and daughters whose lives have been taken. And we live in a town that has a lot of military personnel here. And a lot of these men and women who have served some have given their lives, some of them have come back with illnesses and disabilities. And when we talk about the Americans with Disabilities Act, let's please keep in mind some of the people who have given up a lot of their life to protect our freedoms need to have access to streets and sidewalks and all of the services that the government has to provide. So I just want to honor them and say thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Myers. The city administrator wanted to respond to it. In case you heard the beeper there, I'm so bad about keeping time on the clock. I've asked the clerk to assist me. Our own rules call for 5 minutes twice on any topic. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just really quickly, in response to Councilwoman Myers' comments, the state's attorney did look at both the state statute and the city ordinance. And the second point I would make is that, as part of this change in government, and I know that there's still some heartburn in regards to the mayor being present or not present, I would just simply ask you to look at other bodies, whether it be, we had a change from a mayor-council form of government to a mayor and a legislative body strictly. And if you look at the other bodies in the United States that have that, you know, the President of the United States does not attend sessions of Congress unless he's presenting his budget or he's doing something of great significance. And the governor, frankly, doesn't do the same with the state legislature. And so I would just ask everyone to understand that this has been looked at. You have opinions on it. The mayor is relying upon those opinions. And what the office of the mayor and the mayor personally would really like to have happen is that if we can get past these pinch points that we are dealing with on procedural issues and start focusing on moving the city forward, that's where we'd like to put our attention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd also like to echo my excitement that the war is now over and our troops will be coming home, and that there were 32,000, actually more than that, servicemen and women injured in that war, and more heroes are coming home than ever before, and there is a lot of work to do to support them, and our community is equipped for that with the VA support in this area, and also the Andrews Institute and Sacred Heart. There's many people working very hard to help take care of our veterans. I did want to take a quick moment, in my absence in the last meeting on December 1st, the fire department was thanked for their efforts, their third year of doing the citywide beautification effort, specifically on Scenic Highway, and I know their names were read and information was given, but I want the citizens to know the lengths they have gone to in the care and keeping of your city. They come out on a weekend and they have made such a difference in that corridor. Your scenic bluffs are the most beautiful bluffs. The next clay cliffs on the Gulf of Mexico is Veracruz, Mexico, so it's a treasure. And the firefighters have come out year after year to assist in that. And I really want to thank them for their continued efforts, and I'm so proud to work alongside them in doing that. I also, in my hurry after coming back home, had the illusion that I might have a chance to bake some cookies and tell council thank you for this past year and wish you a happy holidays. But I'd like to take a moment and say that to the folks on staff that support this council, and also all of the city employees, that I hope you have a happy and safe holiday and your hard work does not go unnoticed. I think of you often. I see you in our community. I'm the crazy one that honks the horn all the time, and I treasure you, and I want you to have a happy holiday. And in my travels, I was again impressed at the active lives that Germans lead, the remarkable transit system, and both regional and local. We can learn a great deal from some of the bus systems. I know that Münster, where we lived, only has buses, does not have streetcars, and it is amazing how you can get around that town. So I'd like to see more, whether it's a gas tax, but if we can figure out some better funding for that, it's very important. And also had a chance while in Germany to talk to the Schwäbische Luftwaffe, and they have offered to do a flyover at the grand opening. I'll put the mayor in touch with those folks, and I'm just glad to be back. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And I was not thinking when we scheduled that award last month without you here. I think it would have been entirely appropriate for us to hold that award up for a month just so you could have been here. But you were mentioned, and
I didn't want to be mentioned.
No, but it's the work that you've done across the city, but particularly along Scenic Highway, is just truly remarkable. And the way that you've gotten people excited about their volunteerism in the community is probably even more admirable than your personal work at the Bluffs. But you're out there every single time. And finally, the ward itself. Mm-hmm. You know, that's that should be the Marin DeWeese Beautification Award there. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that we presented the award in your absence, but you weren't forgotten. Okay, thank you. Mr. Johnson and Dr. Wu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. Yeah, I just want to comment on what Mr. Reynolds said earlier. You know, we have an opinion from the State Attorney's Office that's been rendered saying that the bonuses were legal, but yet we continually bring them up and talk about them. We talk about them again tonight, and I'm just beginning to wonder if this is the best use of our time to continue beating this horse about these bonuses we're granted to some very deserving employees here at the City of Pensacola. We now have a state attorney's office opinion that has been rendered supporting that decision by the mayor and his staff to grant those bonuses. So I would like to reach out to all, and let's let that issue go and let's move on. I agree. I find ourselves down here mired in issues that really are not bringing this city forward. And it's very, very frustrating for me. I recently just got back from a two-day trip and just reflected back on how often we sit down here and we talk about things that, you know, are just frustrate me to no end. And the bonuses, there's been a state attorney's decision rendered that they were legal. Okay, let's move on from that, and let's start trying to figure out ways to grow this city, to bring jobs to this city, and to make this a greater city for us all to live in. It's counterproductive to sit down here and get mired in this stuff. It's just very, very frustrating for me. The second thing I'd like to talk about too is the other issue, and that's about if the mayor should be here or not. Well, the mayor's represented here. He has staff. I see many staff members in this audience, and he's here. And he hears everything that's going on here. So many times I know the mayor is at different events and different things representing our city, but if there's an issue with the mayor not being here, I would suggest that if someone has a problem with that I suggest that you go down and file a lawsuit. And let's have a judge render an opinion on whether the mayor has to be here or not. But for every council meeting, for me to come down here and hear this talk about the mayor not being here, is this really the best use of our time? It's just very frustrating. I'm ready for someone to file a lawsuit, take this to court, and let's get a judge to render an opinion on this. I mean, for us to sit down here, the mayor's not here again tonight. It's just really, really frustrating. I hear it out in the community. I hear people talk about it in the community, and it's just gotten to a level that is really, really, really counterproductive. And I would ask the persons that have problems with this to file a lawsuit. Let's get this before a judge, and let's resolve this issue. Let's get it over and move on, and let's try to grow this city. Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy Hanukkah to all.
Okay, there was some switching seating arrangement here, and the labels didn't get changed at my desk. That's Dr. Wu is actually Dr. Pratt.
I was feeling a little confused. I thank you, Mr. President. I've heard what Mr. Johnson said, and I do think that this has been frustrating to talk about the bonuses, and it is counterproductive for us to have to come up or discuss this over and over. Though the state attorney opinion I just found out has been rendered, and so when I brought it up on Monday, I had no idea of any opinions. My reason for bringing this up is not to question the employees and how much they deserve, because they are hardworking. Unfortunately, on Monday, since I didn't finish my thoughts, a number of people heard about it, and I got calls because they were worried, oh no, is there something wrong? And so I really didn't want to add to their stress. And I agree that the mayor is trying with a good faith effort to do the best he can, and I hope that he understands that we too are trying with a good faith effort to do as best as we can with the information we have. But I think the issue isn't a political issue, a power issue. It's more about transparency. You know, our city code is what we believe our government's run by. We have a charter and a code, and sometimes they might conflict. But I think that we as a council deserve the respect of the mayor and to be told, you know, you might come across the fact that there was this ordinance, because I remember voting about it, and so it rang a bell. And so we deserve to be told if there are opinions out there. You know, our government shouldn't operate on unpublished opinions. So ultimately, I think that an open discussion about the bonuses would have been valuable. I would have liked to have heard from the employees, the citizens, and each of you about what is the best course of action, because maybe there were other options that could have been beneficial. But unfortunately, we weren't included in that discussion. And I believe that as the policy-making body and the body that ultimately deals with appropriations, we at least have valuable input. And so I would have appreciated at least being informed as this went forward, because ultimately we need to be sure of what's going on in our government. And so I would like to see the opinions that have been rendered, because I know, having heard from Ms. Mack, I knew that she was looking at the state issues. I didn't know that she was asking about the local ordinances. But I welcome the opinions. I will never claim I'm an attorney, but when I read it as an informed person, I see it in one way, and I would like more information. And so that I will look at that in the future. And finally, one other question I did have. I saw something in the paper today about maybe the fish hatchery didn't get funded, and I'm hoping we can get a response from the mayor's office about the status of that process.
Absolutely, Councilwoman Pratt, and we can put that on the next agenda, and I can tell you that it's good news, not bad, so we can go from there.
Thank you.
But we can get a full update.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does that do you, Mr. or Dr. Pratt?
Thank you. Mr. now.
Mr. Spencer.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate our city administrator's delivery of the opinion that was rendered today by the state attorney's office. And I'm certain that all of us as council members can receive a copy of that in written form. And I too, probably in concurrence with fellow council member Johnson, hope that the habitual critics of our city's mayor and the new charter, including certain members of council, will learn to recognize and grasp the very tangible progress that is the signature of our strong mayor and this administration as it comes to the end of its first full year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gerald.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. I earlier was not going to comment, but having heard the other comments, it occurs to me, and I think Mr. Reynolds mentioned it earlier, the transition from the old form of government to the new form of government, I view it as a kind of a marriage. Since it's new to both sides, the mayor and council, it is imperative that we work together to get through the rough spots, and we cannot do it in absence. I can't imagine what would happen to me if I didn't show up at home at, say, 2 or 3, being in a marriage. But I think the newness of the charter would indicate a closer relationship so that we will have the opportunity to work out the differences face to face. And as long as we continue to do it the same way, we're going to continue down the same path. And that's all there is to it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to try my best over the next year here to, keep my comments to a minimum. I viewing my job more as being a manager here. I still have the right as an elected official to weigh in on the different issues, but from a chair's perspective, tradition has been in Robert's rules that we don't offer the opinions. But the history of this council is given us precedent on that. Indeed, in our own council rules and procedures, it explicitly says that the council president does have the right, not necessarily the obligation, to speak out. And I'm going to choose to keep mine to a minimum. And I'm not addressing any particular person here on council or remarks or anything that's been done tonight, except for the one idea that Mr. Johnson had regarding the lawsuit. One of my old political foes that I used to serve on council with, and sometimes when I look back, I wished I had him back. But he's just said, sometimes lawsuits are a good thing. They settle political issues. You let a court of law figure it out. If the political people can't get it figured out, let the politics figure it out. So I think that's probably a good idea, not just on the issue that Ms. Myers brought up, but there's 3-4 issues that keep showing up in the press and in the political blogs over the growing pains. And it just seems like to me that probably the best thing to do would be to take that Ms. Myers issue and others to court and get those resolved. It wouldn't hurt my feelings a bit. In fact, I'd like to see what the results are. The problem I have with it is, though, is that if you do that and the courts rule on it, it takes that political issue away from a particular group that like to have a political issue before them. And so then we just got to move on to another issue. And I don't want to legislate the city by always having things in court just because somebody's not happy with something. But these are, I think, all legitimate issues. I happen to be a supporter of the mayor, what he's doing, and others disagree, and I think that's fine. But it may be that we have to get the courts to figure that out. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Johnson for suggesting that. Ms. Myers.
Yes, I would like to respond. It appears from comments made tonight that I'm the one that brought up the pensions and the mayor not being here. I didn't bring those issues up. Those two issues were brought up by Mr. Reynolds, not me. And I had no intention of bringing up the bonuses or the mayor not being here. Mr. Reynolds brought those two issues up, not me. So I just want to make that clear, because you just said that these were my issues. Those are not my issues tonight. Those were apparently Mr. Reynolds' issues, and I just responded to them.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Moves us to Ms. DeWeese.
Thank you, Mr. President, and if you'll just indulge me for a moment, I hesitated to make this correction or this urging at the seat of President, but I feel compelled to remind Council that when there is ongoing issues that should be discussed during unfinished business, or if you have new business to bring forward, that Council communication is not typically designed for that it is communication with the citizens about business openings in the community or upcoming events, and that we have a great deal of people in the audience that are here for issues that are on the business portion of the agenda. So I would just like to ask Council to wait until the end of our meeting for unfinished business. If there's anything left from Monday that we need to discuss, or if there's something that they still want to continue to debate. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm still under instruction, so I probably should consult with you before each meeting.
I wasn't correcting. I was just pleading, actually.
But thank you. Brings us to the consent agenda, and I can already tell you ahead of time, in case you're looking for items that you may want to pull off of that. We have several people that want to speak to item 11D. For the public, they've been watching over the last year, they understand what the consent agenda is, but in case you're new to it, these are items that passed unanimously during our committee of the whole, and it's just an effort to try to streamline the voting process here. And so what I'll do is I'll read off each one of the items, and when we get to that, that'll be waiting for a motion to approve, and once that's in place, we can pull individual items off. Okay, the first one is fiscal year 2012 unencumbered carryover budget resolution. Next is the Code Enforcement Board request for lien release, 715 North 7th Avenue. Proposed contract with Martin Mincy for placement of maintenance of ADA-compliant rest benches and bus shelters located inside the city limits. Item D, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council 79, Collective Bargaining Agreement. Item E, International Association of Firefighters, Local 707, Memorandum of Understanding. F, Qualified Target Industry Tax Refund Incentive for Project Allen. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Motion and a second by Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item F, did I understand you to say that you will allow some discussion on any that you...
Sure, we'll just pull it from the agenda. And
Well,
we'll
I'd like
vote on
to
that
pull
separately.
F.
Okay, council, you'll be voting on items, the consent agenda with A, B, C, and E included.
You need to vote?
Yes, we vote. And that passes unanimously. Item D, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council 79 Collective Bargaining Agreement, and understand these need to go in a particular order here. President Kimberly Aguiar. And I'm so sorry we didn't have time to get to you in open forum, but thank you for staying. And this may have been the more appropriate place to have spoken anyway. But thank you, and welcome, Madam President.
Thank you. Good evening, and I guess I'll have to cram both of my speeches into one, so here we go. All right, so we're going to make history tonight, which you all know, and we're going to ratify our first contract between the City of Pensacola and its employees. And what I was going to say during open forum is this. There's something that we wanted to say regarding the wage article. It is to let you know that we followed the rules, we obeyed the law, and we respected the process. Yet, and again, we were not treated the same. What I mean by that is during our negotiations, we were promised that our bonus, like every other city employee, would be separate from our regular paycheck. But that didn't happen. Excuses were given, like being short-staffed. We understand that. But the real kicker was when I was told by finance was, quote, if you had voted when you were supposed to, we could have gotten our bonus this past Friday, end quote. I'm sorry that we didn't break the law. I'm sorry that it was an inconvenience. But you know what most of all I'm sorry about is that the promise was broken to the 156 blue-collar workers. Nevertheless, we are true to ourselves because we follow the rules. We obey the law, we respect the process, and we will stand for right by holding up our end of the bargain, even when we're treated unfairly. I'm gonna say my next one if I can find it. Excuse me.
Madam Clerk, would you stop her timer just for a moment, please? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's, there we go. Almost there. I had it earlier, and then because I waited so long, it shut down on me. Sorry. Okay, here we go. So, you know, I wrote this the night before we did our ratification, and I sent it out, and I just wanted to read it to y'all to have it on record. To whom it may concern, the City of Pensacola employees, AFSCME Local 3253, worked alongside Mayor Ashton Hayward III and his representatives. Both should be credited for their efforts and due diligence in coming together to reach an agreement, bargaining in good faith. Given the mayor's decision to move towards repealing the Civil Service Act, now more than ever, city employees will benefit from the partnerships between labor and management and what it can offer. It is our first contract with the City of Pensacola. I am very proud of the people who made it happen, from our chief negotiator, Alma Gonzalez, and the negotiation team. Friends and family that supported us and sacrificed throughout the long journey. President Jeanette Wynn of AFSCME Council 79 believing in us from the start. And the many countless volunteers and fellow AFSCME AFL-CIO brothers and sisters here in Pensacola, Escambia, Florida, the United States, and international, all of whom were there from the beginning and through almost 2 years in order to bring us to this turning point in our city's history, and now moving us into the future. It is a win-win all the way around, because we at AFSCME Local 3253, through our negotiation process, effectively helped all city employees receive the bonuses that were truly deserved, which in turn lifted morale, and all workers here in the city of Pensacola and in this country, classified, unclassified, public, private, working and retired, are deserving of an environment and culture that promotes dignity and respect. That is what we strive for, and today is one step in the right direction. I'm humbled and grateful to have been a small part in this movement. I thank you. Solidarity, peace. Kimberly Aguiar, President of Local AFSCME 3253.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Deweese.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Aguiar mentioned that the bonus was paid with their regular pay. Can we get an explanation of if there was a possibility to do that with in a different manner? From what I understand, there's tax implications from that are higher, and with them not having a raise in the last 5 years, and this be a benefit to them, that I'd like to see the benefit maximized. Is there someone that could
Mr.
address
Reynolds.
that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just conferred with Mr. Barker on this issue. Our intent was to try to get it to the employees as soon as possible. There are some minimal tax implications, but those will be addressed when their returns are filed at the end of the year. Again, our goal was to ensure that they had the same benefit at the same time as other employees as much as we possibly could, and that's what our focus was on.
Okay. Does that suffice? Thank you.
At this point, yes.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Myers.
Well, I just want to thank the union and the mayor's office for reaching what appears to be a good contract that the union is satisfied with. I just want to thank you for your hard work. I would often see you down here at night and late in the afternoon going into those bargaining sessions. AFSCME is a great union. It's the union that Dr. Martin Luther King went to Memphis to help during the sanitation strike, and he gave his life to help that union. And so AFSCME is a union that I hold very dear in my heart, quite frankly, because of my past involvement in the civil rights movement. I'm just glad that we were able to reach a good resolution to these negotiations. And I hope that we can continue this cooperation in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Mr. Danny Wallace.
Mele Kaliki Maka and Haolimi Maka Hiki Ho, which means Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
That's what Lulu and Stitch.
Thank you, Mr. President, City Council, City Administrators. I'm going to continue on with what Kim was talking about. First, I'm going to define good faith bargaining, so everybody knows. Good faith bargaining generally refers to the duty of the parties to meet and negotiate at reasonable times with willingness to reach agreement on matters within the scope of representation. However, neither party is required to make a concession or agree to any proposal. Good faith bargaining requires employers and unions involved in collective bargaining to use their best endeavors to agree to an effective bargaining process, meet and consider and respond to proposals made by each other, respect the role of each other's representative by not seeking to bargain directly with those for whom the representative acts, not do anything to undermine the bargaining process or the authority of the other's representative. I believe that the city demonstrated good faith bargaining. We were happy with it. I think we acted professionally. I think the city acted professionally. It was with dismay that we learned the $350 appreciation bonus that all full-time city employees are receiving is being handled differently for AFSCME union members. It is due to our union bargaining with the city that all full-time employees get bonuses. And we as a bargaining unit are very proud of that. Last week, separate checks were cut for all non-union full-time employees. However, union members, instead of receiving a separate payout, which was verbally promised on November 30th by the city bargaining team, will receive their bonus added to their regular 80-hour paycheck. The tax man will now get a bigger cut of our bonus. As a union member, I appreciate the city administration working to get our bonuses to us before Christmas. 156 union members and their families have waited many years for union representation, and a collective bargaining agreement and this bonus is a result of that process. We feel our bonus checks should have been cut separately so that we too could have taken advantage of a few more dollars before Christmas, like all other full-time employees. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joe Sullenberger.
I'd like to thank the City Council for letting me speak tonight. My name's George Solschenberger. I'm the Vice President of the local AFSCME 3253. The city's bargaining team told us in good faith we would receive a separate bonus check of $750. And it would not be included in our regular paycheck. And of course, all other city workers got their separate bonus check last Friday, separate from their regular paycheck. The majority of my local union brothers and sisters, when they found that out, they came to me and asked me if we would also get the same. I told them yes. As it was told to us at our negotiation meetings, which was also recorded. Well, unfortunately, this morning, we found out that was a lie, and I understand the council is not responsible for that, but someone is, and we feel they should be held accountable. So to the council, I'd like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, sir. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Wu.
Dr. Pratt.
Pratt, sir.
I'll deal with it tonight. I was just hoping we could get a little clarification, because I guess this is raising the question, are bonuses generally taxable? And when the other employees got their checks last week, was it, were withholdings taken out of it? And there probably is a difference between federal taxes and then Social Security withholdings, and were those taken out as well? I'm just trying to get an understanding of when they cut separate checks, do they still withhold, or was it not withheld for the others? Thanks.
Mr. Reynolds, do you need Mr. Barker to come down and address that?
Yeah, Mr. Barker, if you could come down, but the short answer to your question, Councilwoman Pratt, is that yes, it is taxable income. You know, administration in the mayor's office was trying very hard to ensure that everybody had their bonuses before Christmas, and I'm deeply dismayed with the characterization that our actions were in any way dishonest or deceitful. We were trying to ensure that everyone was being treated equally and fairly, and the only reason that AFSCME did not receive their bonus with everybody else is because we didn't have a written agreement. And it is incredibly unfortunate that that characterization has been made, because I can assure you that it's not correct. Mr. Barker?
Yes, sir, Mr. Reynolds, Council President, Dr. Pratt. That is correct that taxes are taken out, but of course you can understand if you're taking taxes out of $750 as a separate check, immediately less tax comes out than if you were adding it to their biweekly check and adding the $750 into that. There would be additional tax taken out. So it would have been a benefit to the employee to pay them on a separate check. It is just simply that we did not have enough time in the payroll cycle to do it. We were able to do all other employees because last Friday they were paid. So there's just not enough time. We had a biweekly payroll this year. The contract says that it will be paid immediately upon ratification of the agreement. And so the next payday after the ratification of the agreement, which was Monday, I think you're aware of, was Friday, and that's why we put it on the check. But we can't run two payrolls in the same week. And so that was the issue. We also have the pensioners we pay on the off payroll weeks usually. Sometimes those cross. So it was just a matter of timing and the understanding of the contract. But had the vote occurred earlier, we would have been able to do it on a separate check. If they wanted it this year, if they wanted it next year, I think we would have had an extra payday that we could have done that on. We'd have had an extra week in there to do it on.
So this, they're going to have the same amount of Social Security taken out because that's a 7.5%, and then it was the $750 then is a question of the estimate of their income, and since it was a separate check for the others, their income estimate was taken as, well, they're not making much money, so they didn't take as much a percent.
That's correct.
But once it comes to paying their taxes in the spring, then they're going to have to, that'll get rolled into their total income, and they go through the whole worksheet.
That's correct. I think their concern is that they wanted more take-home, which they would have received in a separate check now.
Okay, so to get the money now. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we need a motion. Yes, Dr. Wu.
Am I understanding the situation correctly, and probably Mr. Barker would be the best person to ask, are the union members getting their checks after the holidays?
No, sir, they will get their pay tomorrow,
So
upon ratification.
Okay, so the bonus will be in that check?
That's correct. With their normal biweekly pay. And so they would have most likely had a greater take-home pay had the bonus been paid in a separate paycheck like we did the other employees.
Right,
It is not physically possible to do that.
Right, which leads me to my next question. Would it be possible to pay the regular pay and have the bonus delayed a day or two, so it would come in a separate check?
No.
And I don't know, I'm just asking.
Right. No, sir, because the contract read immediately upon the ratification of the union. The union ratified it Monday, and when they ratified it Monday, we put it in the pay, so it's too late to take it out now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes, sir.
And I think it's important to understand, and it should not be lost, that this money will come back to them as part of their tax filing purposes. So I mean, it's not as if the tax man is getting it on the short end, but they'll get it back on the long end.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you. I guess I'm a little confused as we talk on this matter. Do I understand if the contract had not been ratified, they were not going to get the bonus?
That's correct. The agreement, Article 25, that I'm reading said upon ratification that the members of the bargaining unit would get a $750 less federal withholding immediately upon ratification of the agreement. They ratified Monday. The other unions either did a MOU or had ratified the contract in time to be paid last Friday on a special pay cycle.
But you had non-union employees who received the bonus.
You had everyone except the ASME union, the police officers who are union, the fire who are union, plus all the other employees who had either ratified the contract, signed a MOU, received their pay last Friday in a special check.
Do we have employees who are not part of any union?
You do, yes, sir, and they got paid.
And they received the check?
They received it last Friday. ASME are the only ones that had not received it because they did not ratify their contract till Monday. And the payday after that is Friday, so as soon as they ratified the contract, we put it in the paycheck so that they'd have the money before Christmas.
In retrospect, it probably would have been best not to put a clause in there regarding bonuses in a contract.
And if I may, we have a responsibility to bargain with any employee organization any labor organization that represents employees. We cannot simply just give those that are represented a bonus without bargaining and going through the process with those that are represented, and that includes whether it's fire, whether it's ASME, or whether it's the police union. We have a responsibility to do that.
Yeah, I know your responsibility, but the issue that I'm raising is that if, for some reason, that the contract was not ratified, you probably will not receive a bonus. Is that what you're telling me?
That is correct, because we have to bargain that with those that are represented.
So in actuality, the bonuses were not for all of the employees, for their performance and et cetera, et cetera. It was if, in fact, that you were part of a union or not part of a union. Is that what you're telling me?
Not at all, Councilman Townsend. The decision was made by the mayor to provide a $750 bonus to all employees. At that point, we have the authority, as we've discussed previously tonight, under the charter, to do that immediately with those that are not represented by labor.
So, okay, well, you clarified me. If you're part of a union, you were being treated differently if you were not part of a union. Is that what you're telling me?
It's federal law that we must. We cannot just simply give it to those that are represented by a union. We have to bargain with those representatives.
Well, you're telling me there's a federal law that says that any kind of bonuses, you got to bargain that bonus with the union.
That's what I'm telling you.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Thank you. Okay, I need a motion for American Federation of State, County, and Municipal.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Please vote. That passes unanimously. And Mr. Townsend, you had asked that this item be held, qualified target industry tax refund incentive for Project Allen.
It might be, thank you, Mr. President, it might be considered nitpicking, but I raised the issue Monday regarding the 20% amount of money that would have to be paid. I think it equated to something like 16,000 something, and the decision had not been made as to whether the 16,000 would be taken out of, would be supplied by the city, or we would deal with some ad valorem issues to make up the amount of money. And if I'm going wrong, square me away here.
Well, and we have the ability to answer that question for you tonight, Commissioner Townsend, or excuse me, Councilman Townsend.
Thank you.
We have representatives from the chamber who can address that issue.
Thank you. And then let me just follow a statement. I want to raise the issue regarding the chamber as to, was any thought made in terms of the chamber supplying that amount of money? So I'm delighted that they're here and they can answer that question.
Yes, sir.
And I see the chamber representative coming forward. Just state your name, please, sir. Right there. That'd be fine.
My name is Scott Luth, Senior Vice President of Economic Development for the Pensacola Bay Area Chamber of Commerce. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to come before City Council this evening, and Council President and Councilman Townsend. I think a couple issues may have been raised the other night, and I apologize for not being here myself. I think Jennifer Ford was here representing the Chamber of Commerce in this particular project at the time, and I know she had a lot of information as it pertains to Project Allen, but I think you were just asking general questions about process as well. And I think they were very good questions that you had asked. We're actually been getting a lot of similar questions as it pertains to the Chamber, our Vision 2015 contributions on behalf of the city and the county. And just a general question or a general answer to that the question that you had posed. The funding that we currently receive from both the private sector and the public sector, such as yourself, those dollars have been used, I think, in the past as well as moving forward to allow us to basically market and promote and find opportunities such as Project Allen to actually bring before the public bodies for you all to consider. You know, whether you want to participate in those programs or actually provide matching dollars that are required by the state programs. This project in particular that you addressed is a automotive related project that we're excited to have the opportunity to actually bring into the city limits. This company is looking at about a $500,000 investment into a purchase of a acquisition of a building here in town. We're looking at about 12 jobs associated with this particular project with an average salary of well over $70,000 a year. So we're very excited, and we think this is a great addition and project to our community in this area. The incentive part, which is that we negotiated with the company or discussed with the company to entice them to actually move from another state to Pensacola and Escambia County, was a part state incentive and has a required local public match, and that's where the 20% comes from. Part of the state's incentives, that's the way they're set up. It's called a qualified tax incentive, and again, this is a tax that's offered, or a tax incentive that's offered to the company as they invest, as they hire jobs. Then they will qualify for these tax incentives or tax refunds. Part of the requirement from the state is that there is that 20% match. In discussions with the mayor's office, we talked about, you know, would there be an interest in recruiting this company to town? If there was, would there be also a willingness to provide the required 20% match to allow the company to be eligible for the total award, which would be $84,000. And again, that's approximately $3,000 per job is where that amount originated from. So the local match we'd be asking for, which would be 20%, would be $16,800 as part of that match. And working with the mayor's office and the administration there, you know, they've recommended that dollar amount to council to match the state, to match the state's dollars that are coming in, which would be that balance of $84,000, which would be the incentive the company is looking for to make the investment and to hire the number of jobs. I don't know if I've specifically answered your question or not, but that's a little bit of the background of the process and where those dollars and those dollar amounts originated from.
No, thanks so much.
Of course, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, was there a motion made on behalf of this one, or?
No, there's not.
Okay.
I move.
Motion and a second. Please vote. That passes unanimously. Brings us to committee of the whole. These are the items that passed out of committee that did not receive a unanimous vote, and we have 5 of those items. The first one is ESP financing of capital projects. Recommendation that council adopt a resolution authorizing a borrowing up to $5 million from Hancock Bank to finance the construction and capital purchases for energy services of Pensacola and sanitation services and fleet management, and approve all actions necessary to accomplish the transaction. Further, provisions of the loan agreement and resolution will conform to the requirements of the city's bond council and city attorney. That motion passed 8-1. Councilmember Pratt dissenting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Ms. Myers.
I was just trying to reread the resolution that we voted for, and I was just wondering, I know that we had some bond attorneys working on that issue, and I was just wondering if the city attorney, I think, I just wanted to ask the city attorney, did you have an opportunity to look at the resolution?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That was the only question I wanted to ask, to make sure that our attorney had looked at the resolution, because I noticed the names of the two bond attorneys mentioned in the resolution.
Is that it, Ms. Myers?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote. And that passes 7-1. Mr. Townsend's absent for the vote. Thank you. Confirmation of Messer Law Firm, PC, Pensacola, as Pensacola City Attorney. Recommendation that in accordance with City Charter, City Council confirm the selection of Messer Law Firm, PC of Pensacola, Florida, for City Attorney services for a term of 3 years. Motion passed 6-3. Council members DeWeese, Myers, and Pratt dissenting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Myers, and then Dr. Pratt.
Yes, I will not be supporting this for a number of reasons. One, what this amounts to is a privatization of a charter position, and I do not feel that the council has adequately deliberated on whether or not it's desirable to privatize this position. I think if you can privatize this position, the logical extension of that is that you could privatize any charter/constitutional position. I received an email from a citizen today that I would like to read. It's very short, but I think it sums up the other reasons I can't support this. It says, in reference to the confirmation of Messer Law Firm, PC, Pensacola, as city attorney, we submit the following. When we, the citizens of Pensacola, voted for the new city charter, it was our expectation the appointed city positions of city clerk, city administrator, and city attorney would be full-time, because the appointed city positions under the previous charter were full-time. Because the current city clerk and the new city administrator work full-time, we still have the same expectation for the city attorney. What is being presented to City Council is a law firm to serve in a part-time capacity as city attorney, compensated through a retainer in lieu of a full-time salary. It is the legal profession, in the legal profession, a retainer is being requested by the Messer Law Firm as a compensation method used between piecework and full-time employment, i.e. compensation for part-time employment. Chapter 112, 313 Florida statute, which I looked at today, provides for a, quote, unit of local government to contract with the law firm only when the local government does not require the services of a full-time local government attorney. This statute was primarily written for small governments that either do not need or cannot afford the services of a full-time local attorney. Obviously, Pensacola is not a small local government. The city of Pensacola needs and has historically employed a full-time city attorney. In fact, the city of Pensacola already employs 2 full-time attorneys, so why would the city attorney be a part-time position? And unlike some local governments, the city of Pensacola can afford a full-time city attorney based upon a $150 budget allocation. based upon citizen expectations, the historic precedent of a full-time city attorney, the current and anticipated legal needs of this large local government, is in our opinion that the office of the mayor was erroneous in advertising for a legal firm to provide part-time legal services for the city in lieu of advertising for an attorney to serve in a full-time capacity. It is our recommendation that City Council does not confirm this selection of Messer Law Firm for city attorney services and that the office of the mayor re-advertise for a well-qualified individual to serve as city attorney in a full-time capacity. And as I said Monday, if Mr. Messer wants to be a full-time city employee, I would support him, but I will not support signing a contract with a law firm to act as the city attorney.
Thank you. Dr. Pratt?
Thank you, Mr. President. I raised some concerns on Monday about the contract and the nature of the contract, and I understand that we were told to not worry about the contract with this company because the mayor has authority over personnel. But I'm going to raise the question I raised 6 months ago when Mr. Messer was first presented, and it really has nothing to do with my respect for Mr. Messer, but I think the citizens many have asked me, and I share their concern that why are we hiring a law firm out of Birmingham? Every one of us said our priority is local jobs. We want jobs here. And by hiring the Messer Law Firm, we're deciding to send money from Pensacola to Alabama. We're being asked to give away a job, and a well-paying job at that, a job that we could find people to do here. And I'm not questioning Mr. Messer's competence, and my concern really isn't about competency, it's about our community. Out of respect for Mr. Messer, however, let me back up, that I do still hold these positions firmly, but I do respect Mr. Messer. And out of respect, I will support him tonight, and I hope that he will help us work through a lot of the concerns that have been addressed earlier tonight that we will continue to face as we transition this government. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. President. Did we not advertise, and we had other local firms, and their bid was higher than this firm that we are considering?
That's correct, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I, too, brought up that concern that Councilman Townsend just brought up. And I think what was misunderstood by the others that were bidding was whether it would be an individual with a support staff that is already in place here at the city. And I think those bids came in with them as well as their staff members in the proposal. So it might have been somewhat confusing. And as I said on Monday, this has nothing to do with Mr. Messer or his performance for the city over this past year. It's been a challenging year with our transition in government. But as I said back in March, I believe it was, there was a great deal of concern in the community of us getting this right, that we use process. That's what we guarantee to the citizens. It's our promise that government has processes in place and that we as a council make sure they're conformed to. The process was a messy one in the beginning of the year. And I do not support someone from out of town. There are fine attorneys here in town, and I would welcome Mr. Messer moving back here. He used to live here. And that I just cannot support this at this time for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? Please vote. That passes 7-2. Mr. Weiss and Ms. Myers dissenting. Thank you. Item C, sublease, Long Hollow Neighborhood Association, Inc., and Open Books, Inc. Recommendation that City Council authorize the sublease of a portion of city property at 1040 North Gilliamard by the Long Hollow Neighborhood Association to Open Books, Inc., subject to legal approval. Motion passed 8-1. Councilmember Johnson dissenting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. We have 4 people in the audience that would like to speak to this, and I'll start by calling Ms. Leslie Velarde. Good evening, Madam. Just state your name and your address too, please.
Well, I am Leslie Velarde. I'm currently the president of North Hill Preservation Association. My address is 16 West Strong Street in Pensacola. I'm here to voice my support. I wasn't able to stay for the entire meeting at the Committee of the Whole, but North Hill and its members support the sublease for the Long Hollow Association for a number of different reasons. First is that we use the building ourselves for our storage, for our board meetings, for our Committee of the Whole meetings. We don't have anywhere else to go. North Hill does not have a community center. There are 6 or 8 community centers throughout the city that other associations get to use, but if we use them, there's a fee. And just like everybody else, we're working with a very tight budget, and we're in the middle of our capital improvements and trying to raise our funds. So we support this mostly because we don't have anywhere else to go, and we certainly want another nonprofit to be able to use the building as well. It benefits the nonprofit, it benefits us, and it benefits the neighborhood. I know that there has been some discussion about development of that property, but I know Long Hollow is in the middle of doing some of those things. I just wanted to mention one thing real quickly, and then I'll end my remarks. Long Hollow takes care of that property by itself. There are no capital outlay for the property. There's no personnel services. There's nothing that the city has to pay for. So the argument may be, well, we're only paying $1 lease to have that property. Well, if you look at the budget for the city services for the different centers around town, just the budget for the personal services, operating expenses, and capital outlay exceeded $1 million. Not $1 went to Long Hollow. It's our community center. It's the community center for North Hill and a number of different other nonprofits. And we would certainly appreciate council's support of the sublease to Open Books, another nonprofit. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Velarde. Ms. Michelle McNeil. And after that will be Mr. Michael Crawford.
Hi, I'm Michelle McNeil. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak before you. We wanted to thank you for your support over the years, and wanted to very briefly just tell, many of you know about our work, some of you don't. Those that don't, we hope that we have the opportunity to spend time with you. But what we've tried to do over the last 12 years is to improve our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is a place that many people saw as a place that was not worthwhile, a place that was undeveloped, unattractive, dangerous, a whole series of things. And over the last 12 years, we've worked diligently, grassroots style, trying to improve things. We have tried to help our neighbors who needed housing repairs. We've have a fabulous park that we've worked, it took us 8 years to complete. Wrote a lot of grants, put a lot of work into it. We haven't asked the city for anything in terms of trying to help us with planning, and most of the money we've raised in a variety of ways. We have a wonderful labyrinth. We have encouraged infill housing. There's 16 new houses and 3 blocks in our neighborhood, largely because of work we've tried to encourage, and then other people have seen it and have decided to move in and just do market rate sorts of housing. That housing, some of it's low income, some of it's moderate income, some of it's market rate, and you cannot tell the difference when you drive by which one. We've worked with DOT, the light fixtures that you see on Cervantes Street, overpass, although we wish they were a bit taller. Those are work that we've done with the city, with other partners, trying to encourage them to put in nice street lamps, to try to do ashlar masonry underneath. We just worked really hard on trying to improve our area. What we're working on, you might wonder, well, why Open Books? Open Books is looking for a community to serve, and we're looking for volunteers to help us. They do so many things that would bring vitality to our neighborhood. They do poetry readings. They have local authors that they support. I recently purchased 3 of my 4 sons' books required for FSU. They were all there. Wonderful literature there. They do wonderful work. I think Scott will speak a little bit more about the type of work they do. We're looking forward to them offering writing classes in our neighborhood center, and we just very much we hope that you will support us in this endeavor, and we appreciate all you've done to encourage us over the last 12 years.
Ms. McNeil, before you step away, you know, I said very complimentary things about you and your neighborhood association and all that you've done over the years. And I also spoke to the fact that a lot of economic development opportunities don't exist out there. And so it may be somewhat unfair to hold you to the same standard that we might have 4 or 5 years ago. But I would like for you to keep that property open. You've got the lease for, what, another 4 years, I guess, to keep that property open enough that the city feels like it can go out there and market that piece of property. You could even be the sublease it out to the people, and I guess that would give you some control or objection to the types of business that came there. But I just don't want the mayor to feel like that's completely out of his control. And even if it's industry that comes in there that may not be exactly desirable for you, if there's a year, 2 year sublease that they're operating under, if you've got some long-term investors that come in there, maybe there could even be somewhat of a buyout clause for those guys that are subleasing, or an escape clause for that. So I would just urge you to keep an open mind on that. I'm aware somewhat of a business deal that the mayor had brought to the community. I don't know how many jobs it would have been, but one of his promises was to bring jobs into Pensacola. And because of that lease being in the way, it didn't work out. And I was disappointed to hear that, quite frankly. And yet I remain a huge supporter of what you're doing and all the many different groups that use that. It's not just the Long Hollow Association, the different community groups that use that. And so you have my thanks, but I just ask for you to keep an open mind there.
We have represented and have said from the beginning that we are very interested in the neighborhood redeveloping. That's what we've been working for 12 years. And so we certainly would be glad to talk to anyone, converse about what might happen. I will say, however, that the neighborhood is not going to be supportive of anything that we see as being detrimental to the neighborhood in the city. We are kind of win-win people. We want whatever happens in our area to be supportive. We don't want to run people off. We want it, and I think that's how every citizen feels about their neighborhood. But we certainly are interested in talking about anything that would be positive to the neighborhood and the city.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Crawford. And Ms. Nichols, you'll be speaking after that.
Thank you all. My name is Michael Crawford. I live at 1203 North 14th Avenue. I live just a few blocks away from Long Hollow neighborhood, and I worked there for 10 years now. I'm here to speak on behalf of as a Long Hollow neighborhood board member. Actually, I also volunteer for the city as an architectural review board member. And 12 years ago, I helped participate in these visioning sessions with our neighbors, knocking door to door, meeting people, and trying to get what our neighborhood, fellow neighborhood residents wanted to do with our neighborhood and what they saw in its future. I mean, I'm an architect. I had a certain opinion about what I wanted to see in 10 years, but I wanted to see what other people felt like it should look like in 10 years. And we had dreams about neighborhood parks and community centers and bringing more residents back into the neighborhood, developing its own kind of funky character. And in a few short years, we did it. And I will say this was with full support of the city. But as Michelle said, we did it with a lot of elbow grease and our own efforts and getting grants like anyone can apply for, any organizations. And I have to say, as someone who participated in these early visioning sessions and someone who continues to do work with the organization, when I heard that an organization like Open Books was interested in subleasing this little half of a small building that happens to be right in the middle of our neighborhood, right across from our park that we're so proud of, and I hope the city's proud of, I was very excited. They bring a youthful vitality to the space, and they have a shared belief in the common good, that you work together to improve your neighborhood, to improve your lifestyle, and that things can be win-win situations. You don't have to compromise one thing for another if you work together. And in a more pragmatic sense, I feel that they brought a strong daytime presence to the space that, frankly, it doesn't have right now. We're all volunteers in this organization. We meet at nights, we meet on the weekends, and for, frankly, not very, very long. And they would be a permanent fixture there that I think would be a very vibrant atmosphere to our neighborhood, and particularly to that address. And I would ask council members, I know we've spoken to a lot of you in the past, some of you participated. It's easy to forget what our neighborhood looked like 12 years ago. As Michelle said, it was largely neglected. No one was interested in that property. And we stood up and volunteered to shepherd it into the new millennium and improve it. So I hope that you're proud of those efforts, because you should be, and we are. And I just ask that everyone consider our efforts over the past years in approving this sublease. We think this will be a win-win situation for Long Hollow neighborhood residents, for the city, and for Open Books. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Dr. Wu?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My remarks I made Monday, I'm going to repeat, and they're intended for you as well as everybody else in your group. And that is, I want to commend y'all for what y'all have done. Y'all took an area that really was very, well, it could have been much more attractive 12 years ago, and I wish you had pictures you could bring us what it looked like 12 years ago. And easiest thing to do at that time is relocate. And the beauty of it is y'all did not do that. And people look to government to try to save them, but it's really, in essence, what citizens do themselves that makes the difference. And y'all have done that, exactly that. I think the park that you have there, I don't want to get in trouble with the park director and say it's the prettiest, but I'll say it's one of the prettiest. When you look at the archway, and my wife and I have walked the maze, it's just absolutely remarkable what y'all have there. And that has spurred other people wanting to come in. And as you said, the development you have is not exclusive. It has housing for all incomes. And that is the dream of the city, that we don't have something that's all for one group or another, but something that hits all income groups. So I commend you for what you do, because and what you've done and what you continue to do, because it's only when what citizens do that makes a difference in this city.
Thank you, sir. Ms. DeWeese.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also wanted to congratulate Long Hollow on their efforts. A lot of the decisions that council made predates my time on council, but I see them as the example of the best it can be. We have PCIP funds that offer partnership from the city when citizens come together as a neighborhood and a neighborhood association. And when I look at Long Hollow and the transformation they've made, when I first met with them, when I first sat on council, I see them as a case study for the best that it can be, and that we should look at their efforts and their transformation, and that can help other neighborhoods in our area, because you're right, Dr. Wu, that government can't do that. That's about the people in our community coming together and caring more about the community than themselves, and trying to create what you've done. So I congratulate you, and I support the Open Books coming completely. Like Mr. Crawford said, it enlivens the daytime space down there. And I did receive an email just today, I read, about Bryant Park in New York City, and that they put carts of books out for people to enjoy while they're in the park, and that's the hopes of Open Books possibly being able to do in the park that you've created. So I look forward to seeing that. I'll be down there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Melanie Nichols, and you'll be followed by Mr. Scott Satterwhite.
Thank you for this opportunity to express my appreciation for your support on Monday's meeting. It was a very long day for you, and you weren't able to hear everybody, so I appreciate all of you taking the time to read my thank you letter that I sent about what this partnership means to me and means to my neighborhood that I care deeply about. Our organization has worked well with the city. We've been great partners, and we've had mutual goals for revitalization. Together, we've brought a lot of volunteers and grant funding and private donations and a ton of sweat equity into turning an abandoned neighborhood into something beautiful and special and unique. When we started out with the park, a lot of people were worried that, you know, it might be vandalized, it wouldn't be appreciated, but because all the kids in the neighborhood participated and picked it out and planned it, they have protected it, and we've never had one act of vandalism in our park. It's been amazing. We do have a great lease agreement with the city, which allows for us to partner with not-for-profits that share in our mission with your approval, that further our revitalization efforts. And without those partnerships that we've had over the years with Pensacola Junior College and UWF and Department of Transportation, we wouldn't be where we are today. We need our partners, and Open Books is a wonderful partner. We have shared our dream and our vision many times with former council and current council and staff members like Helen Gibson and Thaddeus Cohen, Al Kobe, Tom Bonfield, Jewel Kennan-Wynn, and we continue to have the same message. We're very interested in more affordable housing units, more redevelopment opportunities, more jobs in our neighborhood. We feel that there's room for all of that and more, and we feel that there's room for our organization too in our neighborhood with all the redevelopment that will occur. I'm just one of many people who are the most affected by what occurs on this property that you own. I care deeply about my neighborhood. We've shared this so many times. We are open to new ideas. We realize and hope that this property is redevelopment, but it needs to be in a way that benefits our city. We're a fragile neighborhood. It takes a lot of work to entice people to come here because of its past and because it is a transitional neighborhood. You have to be very careful when we're looking at other industry to come in to make sure it is compatible with the neighborhood and residential uses and a park that's across the street. The only other idea that was brought to us a couple of months ago was one that involved 18-wheelers. Our neighborhood cannot support anything that's going to be a detriment to what we have achieved together with you as a city. It needs to be positive. There are so many companies that have green jobs, technology jobs, art jobs. There's lots of ways that this site can be redeveloped that will benefit everybody, and we really hope you do that. And I do thank you for all your support, because we could not have done this without PCIP and with the city manager and the city council support over these last 10 years. And we want to keep doing this and keep working, and I just appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scott Satterwhite. Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Wu, this will be your second time to speak. Do you want to use it now, or?
Yes, it will. Mrs. Nichols, I want to thank you for everything that you've done over the years. There are a lot of folks that we see down here, which is okay, on a one-time occasion, but you have been before council on numerous occasions, and you've been a very, very strong fighter for your neighborhood. One thing a lot of people don't realize is when I first got in office, you invited the wife and I to go on a walking tour. This is a very good strategy if anybody's listening. I think she showed me every cracked sidewalk in North Hill. And I think that was by design, because I think every time I turned around, I was tripping over something. And she would look down and say, oh my goodness, that needs to be replaced, doesn't it? And I think most of them have been replaced. So, but I want to commend you for the efforts for your neighborhood over the years. Thank you, Mr. President, and I'm glad I waited for my second time to talk.
Okay, Ms. Myers.
Yes, I just want to thank the Long Hollow Neighborhood Association and Open Books. I think that this is a fantastic partnership, and I love that area, and it's one of my favorite places in all of Escambia County. It's just a wonderful, wonderful place to visit. I'm glad that Dr. Wu brought up the sidewalks, and if it weren't a violation of the sunshine, I would ask you to go on a walk with me around town, but people might accuse us of violating the sunshine. But I'm going to support this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Satterwhite? I haven't seen you since Mr. Boyd's passing.
Oh, yeah. That's nice to see you again. First, I want to say happy holidays to everybody, too. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Solstice, Kwanzaa, New Year, and anything else that might be in there. And I also want to throw in, too, besides being as an 8-year veteran of the Navy, like many of you have mentioned, I'm also very happy that the war is over. So I just want to throw that out. My name is Scott Satterwhite. I teach English. Do you need my address? Oh, out of protocol. 110 North F Street. My name is Scott Satterwhite. I teach English and American history at the University of West Florida, as well as writing at Pensacola State College. I've also been a longtime volunteer with the Open Books Prison Book Project since its inception in 2000. Now, we are grateful to the Long Hollow Neighborhood Association, the City Council, and the Mayor's Office for all the encouragement and support that we've had over the past couple months, and for allowing us this opportunity to utilize this small space for our project. Now, Open Books is a nonprofit bookstore that functions in a similar way as the Friends of the Library works for the public library. And maybe you may have seen it on Sue Strawn's Angels in Our Midst. We were featured in that about a year ago. Now, our project directly serves the families of Florida's incarcerated by sending prisoners educational, religious, history, and general reading material into the prisons throughout the state, all at no cost to the taxpayers. Now, since our inception in 2000, we have sent over 10,000 tens of thousands of packages of educational books to Florida prisons. And in doing so, we have maintained great relationships with all of the prisons throughout the state. We've also been very grateful for the support that we've had from various law firms like Levin Papantonio and Bob Kerrigan's law firm, Mickles and Booth, as well as various nonprofit entities such as Everman's Natural Foods, pretty diverse entities too, Everman's Natural Foods, the Navy Chapel on the NATTC, the Naval Technical Training Center. We had a priest that worked with us for a long time, and he was very, very helpful to our program. And also to Movement for Change, who through our personal friendship with Leroy Boyd was very influential in helping the group to get us to support us in various ways, and also with his personal support. And Leroy Boyd, somebody I definitely dearly miss. Now, all the volunteers in Open Books, we all live and work downtown, and we want to contribute to the cultural renaissance that's taken place throughout the city. Besides our charity work, we hope to utilize this space to continue the cultural events that we've been doing since our inception. We hope to continue our poetry readings, Martin Luther King celebrations, the film showings and writing classes. Like I said, teach English and writing, and I plan to be teaching writing and history classes over the bookstore like we've been doing over the past couple of years. And also I have 2 kids, and I want to make sure that there's a little small nonprofit bookstore in the downtown area where they can grow up and just be surrounded by books. And I want to be in a city that encourages kids to read and encourages kids to participate in this. And, besides the library and gathering awareness downtown or on East Street, that there aren't a lot of other places like that. And I want to, have another place like this. And I want a place that's very close to where we all live. Now, although we send books to prisoners, that's not our only mission. Our hope is that through education that we can make an impact on the lives of the incarcerated while helping with their families by directly supporting these really desperately needed services, again, at no cost to the taxpayers. Now, with this incredible opportunity, we can not only continue to provide our desperately needed services, while also bringing a multitude of poetry events and local authors, books, presentations, signings, and writing workshops, and all that kind of stuff to the downtown area. So in closing, I just wanted to say that we really appreciate this opportunity to move downtown, and we urge you to vote in favor of this motion.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Stephen Smith.
All right, y'all. I may offend some people, and if I do, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to say this the way I see it. Mr. Townsend, Mr. Gerald, all due respect to y'all, for y'all have risen above great persecution to get to where you are today. Everybody sits and talks about how they're so proud of their community, how it's so beautiful, how they're so worried about it. One thing they do forget, this land was stolen by the Native Americans. It was taken from them. They were forced to be on plantations and treated like crap.
Well, what we can do is, what you're allowed to do is speak to this property and this particular lease.
I am speaking. Okay?
But you got to stay on topic.
It's fine. It's fine to be proud of what you've done with it. Okay, for what your ancestors have stolen. Okay? That's fine and dandy. But to sit here and say that your town is better than this town, or this park is much more beautiful than this, yeah, it ought to be. It came with the blood of so many people. How can you be proud of that?
Do you support the lease or not?
Huh?
You support the lease?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't support you. I don't support any government officials. I can't. I'm over 3/4 Native American.
Thank you, sir. Okay, any other discussion? Please vote. Passes 8-1, Mr. Johnson dissenting. Item D, modification award of bid number 12-006, Main Street Improvement Project. Recommendation that City Council modify its award of contract for the Main Street Improvement Project, bid number 12-006 to Roads, Inc. of Northwest Florida from the base amount of $1,127,295.20 plus a 10% contingency, total $1,240,024.72 to base bid amount of $1,127,295.20 plus additive alternates 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the amount of $288,556.20 for a total contract amount of $1,415,851.40. Also, that an additional amount of $90,000 be reallocated to the Main Street project from FY11 street reconstruction local option gas tax funds. That motion passed 7-2. Council members Myers and Pratt dissenting.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Do have one person that wanted to speak to this, Mr. Johnson, John Johnson. Ms. Myers, did you want to speak now or after Mr. Johnson?
I'll speak after Mr. Johnson. Thank you.
John R. Johnson. When open forum was held earlier, we asked about the ribbons being tied on the street. And I deduced from the facts that I'm looking at here, this is what was upsetting my mom when she didn't know why these ribbons were tied. Because it's talking about the Main Street improvement. My mom's house is in the middle of that area. So it's talking about street reconstruction. And it would have been a lot easier if someone could have told us about that in the beginning, because I think that's the issue of concern. And the people who informed us that there was a meeting on that subject, that meeting was on December the 12th, that's my birthday. And I deduced by, my mom just told me yesterday, and my birthday was the day before yesterday, that this is what we were talking about. Is this what we were talking about, the ribbons on the streets around Main Street plant? Is this it?
I can't tell you for sure, sir. I haven't been over there. Mr. Townsend, do you have any indication?
No, Mr. President, no, I don't. But as the city administrator, Mr. Reynolds, indicated, we are going to find out about those ribbons, whether it's connected to this issue. I don't believe it is. Very well could be, but
I think so, because they were surveying the streets, and in order to make road improvements, you got to know what's where, and then that brings the question is, if they widen the road, are we going to lose property, and are we going to be justly compensated?
Well, I can tell you this particular project here is not for widening the road. It's for doing the sidewalks over the front of the Maritime Park.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking that this kind of seems to me like it fits the bill, but we'll find out, won't we, Mr. Townsend, my representative?
Yeah, it's not on intended de villas. Okay.
Okay, we've got Ms. Myers, followed by Mr. Spencer, Mr. Weiss, and Mr. Townsend again. Okay, clear Mr. Townsend's light. Ms. Myers.
Well, I will not be supporting this for the reasons I've stated in the past. I believe that it is extravagant in light of the fact that there are no plans that I know of, and I've asked now for some time, what are the plans to fix DeVillers Street and Rue Street? They are not in good condition at all, and they certainly are not ADA accessible. And I think that those two streets are going to be utilized a lot by people walking to the park. And so I just can't support this in light of the fact that nobody's come forth with any money to address other issues on other streets. So I won't be supporting it.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer.
First, to address the gentleman in the audience, I think I have been involved in reviewing some of the Main Street enhancement plans, and I feel confident that none of the enhancements or improvements involve encroachment beyond any of the Main Street right-of-way corridor. And certainly, if that is the case, that process of any sort of capturing of private ownership is a lengthy, generally and a very open process. So, but what I've looked at, it doesn't have any of that at all. Also, I have noticed there's a lot of pink ribbons, a lot of marking, surveying, and locating of underground utilities that also is associated with the ongoing demolition of the wastewater treatment plant. So I don't know if that might be the issue. So in addition to trying to get an answer from the City of Pensacola ECUA, may have to be contacted. And finally, I'm in 100% support of the recommendation and the motion to approve all of these enhancements in the spirit of what redevelopment does. Most particularly, the CRA's charge is we have got to identify and determine areas where, if we can, in fact, focus the funding to create such a great degree of enhancement that it invites future development. What is great about that is then greater tax revenue is created, it's generated, that can be used and deployed throughout the city for repair of sidewalks throughout. So I'm absolutely supportive and enthusiastic about this.
Thank you, sir. Ms. DeWeese.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to offer Mr. Johnson and his mother two color copies that are here of the Main Street project so they might better understand it. I'm an incredibly visual person, so to hear everything that we're explaining to you may not help, but I can pass these to the clerk if you're wanting to leave now, or I can hold them till the end of the meeting. I do know that most of this is putting the road on a road diet. They're actually reducing it by one lane. We'll have much more room for pedestrian traffic, so it's an improvement on what's going on down there because it is just a huge passing lane at this point. If anyone drives on it, they know what I mean. It's just a speed zone. So, but I do have these for you, so it might clarify some of your concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Vote. Please vote. Okay, that passes 7-2. Dr. Pratt and Ms. Myers dissenting. Item E, subject, airport. Consideration of landlord's acknowledgement and consent of collateral assignment of lease. Recommendation, that City Council consider the approval of the proposed landlord's acknowledgement and consent of collateral assignment of lease at the Pensacola International Airport of Sandspur Development, LLC, to Penn Air Federal Credit Union. The motion passed 7-1, Councilmember Johnson dissenting, and Councilmember Spencer abstaining from the vote.
Move to approve.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Mr. Attorney, do we need Mr. Spencer to state his reason for abstention here as well?
I don't believe that Councilman Spencer has to state it. He just has to report it.
Just report it, okay. Gotcha. Thank you, sir. Okay. So a motion and a second. We have Mr. Rich Chisholm, Venice Free Hotels. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Good evening. I'm Rich Chisholm, Director of Development for Innisfree Hotels. We are the agent of Sandspur Development, LLC, and our office is in Gulf Breeze at 113 Bay Bridge. We're here today to ask you for your approval as our landlord on the document that's before you. It's a part of our loan documents that are required by Penn Air Federal Credit Union and Navy Federal Credit Union. And we've also asked Mr. John Daniel to attend tonight. He's an attorney with Beggs & Lane, and he's an expert in leasehold financing, and he's familiar with our lease and these documents. So we're here happy to answer any of your questions, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions, comments? Seeing Ms. Myers.
Yes. I just wanted to know if our attorney has looked at the proposed landlord's acknowledgement and consent of collateral assignment of lease.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to support it. I supported it Monday, and I support it tonight.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, please vote.
You didn't register.
Okay. That passes unanimously. Mr. Spencer abstaining. Thank you. Community Redevelopment Agency.
Thank you,
Dr.
Mr.
Pratt.
President. The Community Redevelopment Agency did not meet this week. Unless there are any questions, that concludes the report.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, I would like to know, first of all, I want to thank Becky Bray for all of her years of service to the CRA, and I wanted to know who is taking her place, who's doing the work that she was doing.
Thank you. I believe that Sherry Morris is doing that at the current time. I spoke with her recently, and she had said that she's been doing a lot of that work. Thank you.
One other issue I wanted to address is, I believe at one time the CRA did an ADA assessment of all of the streets and sidewalks in the CRA district. Do you know if that's true? It was, I think, about 3 years ago.
I think that, I don't know, but maybe the city administrator could help address those questions at some point.
I can certainly find out for you, Councilwoman.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Resolutions.
Item 16A is Resolution Number 33-11, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution of the City of Pensacola, Florida, providing for the issuance of a not exceeding $5 million gas system revenue note, Series 2011, to finance the acquisition and construction of certain capital improvements to the system, providing for rights of the holder of such note, providing for the payment thereof, fixing the maturity, interest rate, prepayment provisions, and other details with respect to such note, authorizing other actions in connection with the sale and delivery of such note, making certain other covenants and agreements in connection therewith, and providing an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Please vote. That passes 8-1. Dr. Pratt dissenting. Your next resolution, please.
Item 16B is Resolution Number 34-11, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution authorizing and making revisions and appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2012, providing for an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion? Please vote. That passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
Item 16C is Resolution Number 35-11, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution by the Governing Board of Pensacola, Florida, recommending Project Allen be approved as a qualified target industry business pursuant to subsection 288.106 Florida statutes, providing for local financial support in the form of ad valorem tax abatement and/or cash, providing for an effective date.
Move the approval.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Discussion. Please vote. That passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Item 16D is Resolution Number 36-11, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution authorizing and making revisions and appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2012, providing for an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. Please vote.
Ms. Myers?
Voted yes.
I did.
And that passes unanimously. Brings us to any unfinished business. Any unfinished business here? Ms. Myers?
Yes, two things. One is our Environmental Advisory Board has not met since March, and I understand the reason they have not met is because that board does not have a staff person to just do the administrative things that they need to have accomplished so that they can meet. I spoke with Ed Spears and several months ago. He informed me that he didn't have time. Cynthia Williams, she didn't have time. So, I mean, this board is a city council board, and it's a very important board. And I want to know why we can't have a staff person to do just the simple thing like getting the agenda posted to the city's website, sending out an announcement to the press, and having someone take minutes and record them with the clerk. And if the city doesn't have the staff, maybe we should consider having someone volunteer to do that in order to get that board to meet, so that it can meet.
I'm sorry, I was a little distracted at the beginning, Ms. Myers, so forgive me if you already answered this. Are you getting specific complaints from the board that they're not meeting because they have particular issues that they're wanting to take up?
I attended the last board meeting in March, and they were given certain assignments. One was to give us a status on Carpenter Creek. The other one was to look at some other environmental issues. They are supposed to meet at least quarterly, I believe, according to the city's website. And I have inquired about this a number of times, first I was told that Cynthia Williams was the staff person assigned to the environmental board. Then I was told that Ed Spears was, and I had a brief conversation with Ed Spears, and he said he didn't have time to do it. And really, he doesn't have the, I guess, the environmental or land development expertise. But, you know, this is a very important board, and they're not meeting because they're not being provided the staff they need in order to meet. So.
Well, I just recall that at one time, this may have been before you got on council, we pretty much had to make them meet, you know, because there had been some concerns about the last time that they had met, and that I think they even struggled to put together some sort of agenda of things that they were worried about. And so it's, I'm not, I know Mr. Reynolds wants to address your issues here, but it has been a struggle with this group. And I'm not saying anything bad about them on that. It just may be that whatever level, they may not have the same level of sensitivity that perhaps you and I do, and about some of the issues. But if they're supposed to be meeting quarterly, then I think they ought to be doing that. Even if the agenda is to take no action at all.
Well, the last meeting I went to, they were very enthusiastic. They had actually been meeting on a monthly basis, and all of a sudden, now it's 8 months, 8 or 9 months,
Let's
and they haven't met.
see what Mr. Reynolds has to say about it.
Thank you, Mr. President. If council will remember, approximately 2 months ago, I had informed council that the county had agreed to, as part of their, we currently contract with the county for environmental services. The county has graciously agreed to staff that particular body. So I assume that this issue was solved. Apparently, no action has happened since that time. But this is the first that I was aware of that.
Okay. I just ask that you follow up of it and give a report to council, you know, by your usual quick and precise emails.
And if I may, it will not be quick and precise. I'm going to be leaving tomorrow and I'll be back on Monday. But I can certainly get the contact information for the county environmental services on Tuesday morning out to everybody.
Okay.
Just for Mr. Reynolds' benefit, I have already spoken to Keith Wilkins, and they're not contracted to do the administrative stuff that needs to be done so this group can meet. So I'll be glad to discuss it with you again, but I've already contacted the county and spoken to them.
And if I may, Mr. President, once again, and I've covered this before, you're exactly right, Councilwoman Myers. They are not contracted to do that, but what I did was go to them and ask them if they would be willing to do it, to which they replied that they would. County Administrator Randy Oliver was nice enough to extend that to the city.
Okay, well, I'll have a talk with Mr. Oliver then.
Okay.
See if we can't get it back on track. Thank you.
Ms. Myers? Okay. Dr. Pratt?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to voice a concern of mine that, well, I am totally sympathetic to the challenge of chairing a meeting. I've had my fun with the CRA, and that's not quite as daunting as this. And I agree we can tighten up these meetings greatly. But I am concerned that we ought to show proper respect to our citizens. And all of us went door to door to hear from the citizens, and thousands of them were willing to open the door and hear what I had to say. And now this is the door, and it's a lot more convenient for all of us. I'm not quite as smelly as I was when I went to their door, but I want to make sure that this is a welcoming place, that they are encouraged to come and share their concerns. And so I just wanted to make sure that the citizens did feel that they have an opportunity to voice their concerns to us. Thank you.
Well, and I want to echo that. Many of the people out here in the audience tonight are much younger than I am, and I've been on the other side over there, and I've been known at different times of my life to be somewhat of a bomb thrower or flamethrower out there, and but I've been called down on that too, but when I was called down, then I shifted gears. I dialed it back just a little bit, took my foot off the accelerator, quit driving quite so quickly, and that's all I'm asking for here is some mutual respect. I don't expect everybody that shows up here to be sycophants for us, and tell us just what great job we're doing, and how much they agree with us and how much they love us. I think that a community like ours is better for expressing all points of view. But we also have a responsibility to keep the meeting on topic, and there's not necessarily an on time, but to keep it on topic. And I got complaints from staff, and I heard some of the complaints from council members about some of the allegations on Monday. My fault for letting it get out of hand. The public felt like they had the right to do it. I should have reined it in earlier than what I did. And after I started hearing council members speaking up, then I changed my posture and how to deal with that. Everybody is welcome at this meeting every time. They're welcome to speak. Is just keep it respectful, no name calling, and I'm firm on that. And if somebody, I guess, wants to get up there and stand for 4 minutes and say nothing at all, I guess that's a matter of free speech too, and I should allow that. But what I can't allow is for the ad hominem attacks on individuals here on council. So I can't apologize for being sensitive to that, but I'm trying to respect each and every one of us and the public as well. There are people out there in the public that don't want to hear that stuff. Now, it may not always be comfortable, you know, what we're hearing, and that's fine. I support that. But let's just keep the name calling down. Okay? So, anyway. And I see Father Monk came back in. You know, if Father Monk wants to speak again, it would open for him this time. That's fine with me. Let's just keep it within certain boundaries there, okay? And then, okay, and Mr. Gerald.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask for an update on our if any, negotiations are being done with Amtrak to see if we can get that service back into Pensacola. And I don't know if it'll come from the mayor's office or if the chairman here can get that information, but if you will, just pull together some information and provide to council some feedback on our situation with Amtrak and if we're making any progress there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'm breaking two of the things I'm trying not to do during meetings, and it won't hurt my feelings if I don't get a motion made on this. I don't want to make the motion from the chair, but I did want to talk about the camping ordinance that we sent back to staff last week with the expectation that it was either going to go away or that staff was going to make improvements to it. I'm not sure we gave much guidance on that particular issue. But in order for us to be able to discuss it, I need a motion on the floor because I would really like to hear from Mr. Reynolds and perhaps from the city attorney as well, but particularly from Mr. Reynolds on the history of this ordinance, when it started, where it started, and perhaps why it started. And so.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I believe as a point of order that was tabled, that the council member that tabled it has to bring it back. Is that correct?
Supermajority?
I believe you're right. I believe you're right on, well.
It doesn't take
Yeah.
a supermajority, but the
No, it doesn't.
member that tables it
Yes.
has the right to bring that back because if they tabled it, and only them.
Do you recall who did that?
And just a buddy, and I'll defer to my friend, the city clerk. I think it does take a supermajority to take it off the table because it was tabled at the committee of the whole, and we're now at the full council meeting. So it gets a little complicated.
Well, and it does, and I do understand the supermajority, and that's the way our committee system and council used to work. But if you look at the latest copy of the rules and procedures, which supersedes anything that Robert Rules does, if it took a majority vote the first time, it only takes a majority vote to pull it out, and that's also on a reconsideration. I know it was very clear that we had to, Robert's rules aren't going to help you on this particular issue because council rules and procedures supersede that. But thank you, Mr. Reynolds. But I do believe that we don't address who can pull it off the table in our rules and procedures, so Robert's rules would apply. And I do believe Madam President is correct on that. So who moved to table it?
That was Councilmember Spencer.
Okay. And I guess Mr. Spencer is unwilling to bring it up. That's okay. So, perhaps in open forum, I can ask Mr. Reynolds to give us an explanation of history of that. Okay. All right, thank you.
Get it.
Okay. Dr. Pratt.
I wanted to speak tangentially on this, not about the ordinance itself, but I think it would be a valuable discussion in the future to talk about. I was perplexed in the previous meeting, the decision to table as opposed to refer to staff, but then I realized, well, we have no staff to whom we can refer an item, and whether there's a way we can have a tacit understanding with the mayor's office that we can refer things to staff. Because in some cases, it's not that we want it to sit there in committee, but we really expect that there would be work and discussion outside of the committee situation. And so it might be a valuable discussion in the future.
Okay, thank you. All right, new business. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just wondering if I could get some information at a later date. Specifically, I'm talking about the parking meters and the parking issues downtown. I had a considerable number of folks come to me and raise some issues about the backing into the parking. And additionally, I'm wondering about the agreement that we have with DIB, the extent and the longevity of it and duration of time on it. And if we get that information, and it appears that the meters have been expanded beyond what they were initially. I noticed some over on Roos and on down Government, and I'm just wondering whether they were there when we went into that agreement. And I'm just wondering if we could check that out.
And if I may, Mr. President, we can certainly have DIB come either in the first or second meeting in January to do a report, if that would work.
My preference would be to get that background information prior to them coming, if I could.
Absolutely.
Okay. The other thing that I wish we could check is the marketplace on Saturdays downtown, and I'm just wondering who is responsible for that. Is it the CRA or the DIB? It appears that, I know at one time they were allowed to come in there and not pay for their spot, but it appears to be that we're going to have some charging for the spots down there on Saturdays and maybe an increase. So I thought at one time the Community Development Office within the CRA had that, and I didn't know whether the DIB is responsible. So if I could find out who's responsible for that.
Yes, sir, and it's actually Neighborhood Services, and I will get some information on that for you.
Okay.
Mr. Townsend, thank you. Mr. Spencer. I'm just responding to Councilman Townsend's inquiry about the marketplace, and that is under the purview of the DIB, and they are undergoing definitely some pricing structural changes. They are trying to basically educate the farmers about the expenses involved in ensuring that certain produce is grown according to basically what's represented to the public. But I am not taking a stand in which way that's going, and I will only shed the light or share with you all that there's some complexity regarding what the vendors feel that they can afford and what DIB is representing is necessary to cover their expenses.
May I respond?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, and I guess I'm trying to reflect back on the origin of the market, and I didn't feel that the DIB had that responsibility, and unless we did it out of later action, and that's what I was trying to determine. A couple of the farmers did, in fact, raise the issue about just what you discussed to me this past Saturday, and I was under the impression that it was not under DIB and that it was actually underneath the city or the CRA. So if I could get a clarification on that, it would be helpful. And you're probably correct, but I just thought when we started that it was under the CRA and our Community Development Office under the CRA and not DIB.
Thank you. Anybody else?